Here we go.
In 5, 4, 3.
Call to me, lands far away.
Elves have forests to protect.
We need to build a wall.
Dwarfs their mines. Men their fields of grain. But we Harfoots have each other.
For I must now wander this wandering day.
We're safe.
You have fought long enough, Galadriel.
No.
Put up your sword.
The enemy is still out there. The question now is where?
It is over.
Nothing is over! Nothing! You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them!
If you only knew the power of the dark side. Darkness will march over the face of the earth. It will be the end, not just of our people, but all peoples. Everyone! I am sorry, but their time has come.
The past is with us all. The past is dead. We either move forward or we die with it.
This could be the beginning of a new era.
Away I must wander this wandering day.
To him finally being lionized in the prime and his prime. Fuck.
Do it!
Shit.
Just do it! Don't let your dreams change. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true!
Luke went from being... Oh, no. Welcome, Slayer Nation. I have some great news for you today. I hope you're all doing great. Nope, that didn't work. One more.
You have failed me for the last time.
Welcome, Slayer Nation. I hope...
If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up.
That is eating away at what you love in order for it to shine. And one man's vision is... Sometimes you don't have to make things better for them to be great again. You merely have to Okay. Hollywood continues to slow boil the culture and crazy. Well, right now, Spider-Man actor Andrew Garfield has stepped up and he's fighting motherfucker.
I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it.
And unbearded dwarves, but Prime didn't stop there. They stapled in intersectionality, individuality, biddiga-dig-bee, biddiga-dig-boo.
So it begins.
At my signal, unleash hell.
the Giant Slayer.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Slayer Nation Live. I'm your host, George Molho. It's May 25th, 2025. It's Memorial Day weekend. So this is the weekend, because tomorrow's Memorial Day, where we honor the fallen, where we honor and mourn all those who fought and died to keep us free. And today, I always think about, when it's Memorial Day weekend, about all those who are still fighting. The ones who stand up for us, for liberty, for justice, for the American way. From our soldiers to our policemen to our firemen, all of them. I salute you. I love you, and we're blessed because of you, and we're here because of you. So welcome, everybody. We have a great show for you today. We're going to talk about Mission Impossible, Lilo and Stitch in South Africa. The media keeps bearing the stories, and I think we need to highlight that. Plus, there's news with Batman 2. The script's supposed to be in by tomorrow. And a lot more. So let's get going. Feel those flamethrowers so we can get roasting. We have Fletcher Williams in the back producing today. But we also have the return of Mexican Iron Man. He was here with us, my great producer who helped me start all the streaming. He was with us celebrating when we hit 200,000 subscribers. And he is back. We got Robert Meyer Burnett. We got My Nerdy Home. Plus, we should have Ashton Blaise joining us pretty soon. And Tom might be here. So we're all going to get together. Please thank the mods. We got Eric K., King of the Mods, and Lord Thaw should be here. All righty. Love you all. Let's get going. So bring them out. Mexican Iron Man returns. How are you doing?
I just want to note for the audience at home that because Tom isn't here and Verbal Riot couldn't make it, that I got the official help. I need a minority on the panel. Will you show up? Call. So here we are. Now I'm not a YouTuber, so you're gonna have to explain to me how all this YouTubing works. So I'll just
didn't you get your visa renewed?
Dude, who said what are you talking about?
That's how you're able to be here today.
No, dude, I'm just laying low. I hear thunder outside. So long as I don't hear ice, we're good to go. Let's go.
All right, so let's bring him out. Valliant should be here in a moment. We also got Robert Meyer Burnett and Steph from My Nerdy Home. How you doing, ladies, gentlemen?
If I may, I want to give a shout out. Today is actually Star Wars Day. It is the 48th anniversary of the release of Star Wars today. And to follow that up, I'd like to give a shout out to comic book writer, novelist, television writer Peter David, who passed away yesterday. You know, I loved his column in the Weekly Comic Buyer's Guide, but I digress. I loved his Star Trek comics. I loved his run on the Hulk. I loved his Star Trek novels. Space Case is his TV show. He left this mortal coil yesterday.
Oh, well, condolences to his family. Wow. I didn't know. Today was real Star Wars Day. That's right.
Today's real Star Wars Day. And Mexican Iron Man's, you know, until he shows us his paperwork, he's not really Mexican.
Yeah, I just want to make, Isn't he white, actually?
That's what his papers say.
Yeah,
hey,
that is right.
Hey, you know what we call that? When you look at your birth certificate and it turns out it says Caucasian, you slip through the crack and hashtag unintended upgrade. Let's go.
Unintended upgrade. All right, we're waiting for Valliant. He'll be here in a moment. Let's see. We already got super chats. Let's just get to them. Patrick Robinson for $10. David Tennant said he was being eyed for Reed Richards in Fantastic Four before Pedro. You know what? I'm starting to develop Pedro DS, like TDS, but it's Pedro DS. He's in.
I'm sorry, it's called brown fatigue. Thank you.
It's not. It's Pedro fatigue. It's literally.
Pedro is brown. So
I know, but it's not about color. It's Pedro, just Pedro Pascal. I think he would have been just as bad, if not worse. I agree. Lieutenant I knew is long gone. He is, sadly. He was one of my favorite doctors. I loved him.
He killed it last week on The Last of Us, though.
Who, Pedro or Tennant?
Yeah. Pedro Pascal.
I didn't watch it after he got whacked. And then
they did a flashback episode with him, and he killed it.
And then I heard the whole, I'm going to be a daddy. And I was like, yeah, I saw the clips. And I was like, oh. Anyway, I'm done with Pedro. Graph Web for $2. The name of all that is Holy Cancel Disney Plus. Graph Web, the most relentless, obsessive man on YouTube who has a mission from God. Thank you, Graph Web. We got Mark Daly for $10. Say what you will about Pedro as Reed. The real problem is the script. They actually have Reed say, I don't know. How can he? Isn't he the smartest person in the world? Reed would never say that. Yep, he's the smartest person in the universe. Well, we actually, wait a minute. I think I have a clip. Of how Reed Richards, Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards, is going to defeat Galactus. Where did it go? I found it. I had it the other day. 1 second, because I got to bring this up. It was like a little behind the scenes from Marvel. They're kind of giving us a clue about how Pedro will defeat the mighty Galactus. Here it is. They give it a little, it's kind of like behind the scenes, There we go.
Fletcher's fired. He should have this ready to go. All right.
This is how Pedro Pascal will defeat Galactus.
I want to lick the stick. I'm going to lick my stick. I'm going to lick the stick. The stick is colorful.
You know what I'm going to say? This is my problem with Pedro Pascal. When we see Tom Cruise going around the world to promote Mission Impossible, and the way he's working at it, the way he speaks, anytime they ask him a political question, anything, whether it's about Trump, the U.S., culture, he's like, I'm here to talk about the movie. Let's just focus on the movie. The man is a class act, and I believe he's one of our last movie stars. What do y'all think? Agree?
I'm a huge fan of his.
But you think he's the last movie star?
I think that certainly he comes. I mean, if you think about it, Risky Business came out 42 years ago.
Wow.
And that was his big breakthrough role, and still my favorite teen film of the 80s. And ever since then, and you think about his early roles like in Taps or Coppola's The Outsiders, he has been, and he's built, I got to spend at a screening of Valkyrie. He came and I was there. We were there an hour early. Right. So I actually got to talk to him for an hour, just him and I. We had a conversation, and the first thing I said to him, because at first he didn't know me at all. And I said, can I ask you a question? We were there, so I figured, why not? And I said to him, I go, you've had such a great career with, in terms of both the movies you've made and the people you've worked with. I said to him, I go, do you choose your projects based on the material, your collaborators, or is it a combination of the two? When I asked him that question, it was like watching his whole brain lit up, and he laser focused on me, and we talked for an hour until everybody showed up. He was so engaging and so interesting and had so much insight into the process. And I was just asking him extemporaneous questions off the top of my head, and he didn't understand how come I could just recall his career and who he'd work with, because he's so used to, like you said, he's used to when he's promoting, but I was just asking him questions. So, and we had the most productive conversation. I was sad when it ended with people. This was before a screening of his film Valkyrie that Brian had directed. And he was one of, I've always wanted to, I wish I could sit down with him like I did with Christopher Lee for Lord of the Rings and talk to him for
I would love that.
6 hours about his career, because to talk to him about movies and the process, I've never met anybody that is more electrified by those questions. And
Rob, to build on that,
more answers.
I'm a huge fan of his as well. And while his movie may, who knows if it's going to do very well, it's got a lot of competition in the box office. I don't know if it's going to make money or not, but I watched this phenomenal interview he had this week as he was going around doing promotionals. And I think the interview was actually on the McAfee show. And then right after that, I saw him on another show, and he did to those guys what he did with you. And it was interesting because he talked about, one of the interviewers said to him, Steven Spielberg gave you the best compliment ever, that, your Top Gun 3 may have saved Hollywood. And he was very, very humble about it, but he provided two critical insights. One is that he talked about when he did Mission Impossible, when he got Top Gun out, he wanted to promote it and all that. But when he started working on Mission Impossible 1 with COVID, he basically was lying to countries.
You mean Dead Reckoning?
Dead Reckoning, yeah, Dead Reckoning. And he was basically telling the studios he was filming, but he wasn't. He was telling a country he was filming another country. So he created this buzz just to keep people going. And from, if I understand the numbers, I believe he spent $80 to $100 million just keeping people, just getting the thing going and keeping it going, so that it wouldn't die.
Yeah, he was housing
so
the
all
crew
these people below the line had work.
Yeah, he was housing his crew in a boat.
He did. I have that interview, but before we get to that, let's bring on Valliant Renegade. It's been a while since he's been here. How you doing, my friend?
All right, good to see you guys.
Great
I
to
love
see
your
you.
voice, dude. You know I've always said that.
Thank you, Robert. It's
Right.
good to see you, man. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It has been a while.
It's good to bring the gang back together. We have that interview that Mexican Iron Man was talking about. It's right here, how he was going through COVID. And again, he shows, Justine Bateman put up a post and she said Tom Cruise should be the president of Hollywood. I mean, he should just take over.
So what I did was I just worked with the governments. I called one studio and this is what I really did. I called the studio. I was like, yeah, you guys shooting? He's like, no, we can't. We're all shut down for that. I said, oh, wow. I said, we're shooting our movies. And they're like, what? I said, yeah, we're making our movies. And then, so I called back a week later and I was like, how's it going? They said, oh, yeah, we're shooting our films. I said, because we're coming out next summer, And I said, so, we're on this date. I hope you're not on this date. They're like, well, we're making our movie and we're coming out next summer. And then I called the studio that I was working with. I said, look, all these guys are making movies. We got to make movies. So, and I just kept everyone working throughout. So they were like, okay, we got to make movies. So then I was like, we had to finish Top Gun Maverick in post during COVID. And I was basically, everyone was kind of like, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. I was like, always going, nah, I don't take no for an answer, really, Pat. I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be a solution. So I was calling like, we have to set up the rules. Let's make agreements so that we can get back to work. And then I was calling governments and getting agreements with them. And then I was sharing it with the other studios and my friends saying, this is how we're doing it. And then just kind of saying my crew's going to get paid during this time. I just kept everybody working. And then slowly and not so slowly, before you know it, we're able to just make sure that we're creating even our orchestra for Top Gun Maverick. We were able to get mics to people's apartments all over the world where they're recording their instruments and then combining those instruments to create a live orchestra. And just showing people, look, we can do this. We can do it safely. Let's create whatever rules so that we can move forward. And that's what I did. And I ensured that Top Gun Maverick did not go to streaming, that it was held for distribution. And I was calling all the theater owners globally that are my friends for decades and the studio heads and all of us I said, look, this movie's coming out, period. It's coming out in theaters. And just kind of worked with everyone and said, look, we're all going to get through this. We're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And just working with friends and how to do it, how to navigate these channels and just keep people moving in the most efficient, creative way possible. And, just kind of night and day. It was 7 days a week, night and day, and creating these things. And you look at the film today, we made it through COVID and 2 strikes and, just be relentless about it and just make sure that people had jobs and that we were moving forward. And that's what happened. And it was.
I love it. Okay, who here?
You know what that is, though?
Well,
that's producing.
But he loves it. But see, that's the thing. Does he come off as anyone, as wealthy as he is, as famous as he is? Does he come off like any of these D+, Disney Plus actors, or again, Pedro, or anyone else who feels entitled? He feels grateful. That's what I always get from him. And I did something last night that I haven't done in a while. I went to the last showing of Mission Impossible, like the 11:45, almost midnight showing. And I'm just going to say this real quick because I'm not going to do a video on it. To me, it was partially a mess. I enjoyed it, though. I enjoyed what I got out of it and the money that I spent. I was telling this to Man of War the other day, a very good friend of mine, another brother. And I was saying, I don't know how this is going to go. I may or may not enjoy it by everything I've heard from reviewers that I trust. But I said, even if I don't enjoy it, I'm going to tell people this is what I like. This is what I didn't like. I would still spend the money again. And I would recommend people, if you want to support somebody who loves Hollywood, meaning old Hollywood, who loves to make movies, spend the money, make an investment. It's 3 hours of your time. Yeah, there's parts of it. The exposition drove me crazy for the first 40 minutes, which felt like 2 hours. But other than that, there were parts of it I really love. All right. What about you, Robert?
Oh, dude, I went to the first show in my local theater. And I got a beer, a wine, a large popcorn, a bag of peanut M&Ms. I knew I was locked in, ready to go for 3 hours. The movie's gobbledygook.
Yeah.
Now, I love the Mission Impossible franchise, but this movie is gobbledygook. I knew that going in. it has the two action set pieces are all-timers. That submarine sequence was bananas. And I was watching it going, you know what? This submarine sequence alone is worth the price of admission. And with thunderous speakers and all that. And the thing about what's really interesting about Chris McQuarrie's stint, Chris McQuarrie and Tom Cruise, I met him when I told you that story. That was when they first really worked together on Valkyrie.
Right.
And Chris McQuarrie wrote that, Brian directed it. And then when they met, they did Jack Reacher. And then McQuarrie, he was going to leave the business. And when he met Tom, because he'd won an Academy Award for writing Usual Suspects, Chris McQuarrie and him started to work together. And they've created a team where he directs and writes and Tom acts and produces. And they're one of the most formidable actor, producer, director teams that Hollywood, I think, has ever seen. And McQuarrie worked on Edge of Tomorrow, the Doug Liman film. But the thing about the Mission Impossible movies, the last two Mission Impossible movies, is they were making them up as they went along. So unlike other films in Hollywood where you have theoretically, you have a really solid script that you then budget and you figure out how much this is going to cost. You do that before you even start shooting. They are able to get away with, they have these action set pieces, which sometimes they film before they've even written anything.
Right, like John Wick does. That's what Keanu Reeves laid out that him and the director do, is they actually go to Japan in this hotel from the very first one. They lay out all the big action pieces, then they write a story.
This movie, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, really suffered the most of all the Mission Impossible films by not having.
It's the exposition to me that killed it. The exposition. What do you
the
think?
exposition was really bad.
It was it was terrible. And not only that, since when do you have an antagonist, which is the entity, and he talks or it talks in the beginning, and then he just disappears?
Okay, they're going to be spoilers here, everybody.
Why didn't they just shoot? The movie would have been much better if the entity would just show up because why not? The movie was gobbledygook anyway. And if you had him coming up going, I'm about to take the Soviet arsenal.
Right, but once it had things
like that.
Right, but it kept there was no reason why it didn't. But
if you look
nuts. And the hard drive, what was that? And they just happened to have the one. But see, people will comment like they happen to have the one hard drive, the USB stick that can do it. I'm like, that's the Mission Impossible. That part didn't bother me because that's the
Ving
movie.
Rhames made it. Luther made it.
Right, I know, but it happened to fit something so old. Anyway, Valiant, did you see it? Valiant, did you check it out?
I saw it Thursday.
He's having some issues. He has to reboot.
Yeah. Can y'all hear me? I might need to reboot. I'm having some issues on that. I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, not a problem.
It's just
I'll read the
word's getting cut
That's
out.
very Mission Impossible Final Reckoning of you.
It is. I'll read you reboot. Exactly. I'll read the rest of them. I'll read the rest.
I didn't
It's
see
the
it.
entity.
Stephanie, did you see it?
I did. Speaking on Tom, I've been muted for 20 minutes, and I just realized that I've been muted. Professional, total professional. But yeah, speaking on Tom Cruise and his professionalism, I think that he's had years and years and years of experience in Hollywood. He's come to love what he does in all aspects of movie making, right? So he knows what it takes. It really puts the rant that went viral during COVID, it puts it into perspective here when you hear everything that he did to try and keep people's jobs, because he said that he had the weight on his shoulders. He felt like he needed to keep people employed because he was seeing people losing their homes, and he didn't want that to happen to, the people that he worked with. So it really puts all of that stress that you hear when he's yelling in that ranting video into perspective. A lot of people were upset at that, but I wasn't. I was like, he has rules that he needs to follow and he's trying to keep people employed. So, that to me didn't come off really bad. But he is totally professional. Him being I think that he's the last movie star, because to be a movie star, you have to respect your audience, and he 100% does. He makes movies not just because, it makes him money, it makes studios money, but because he loves movie making. He loves movies in general. He loves watching them, and you can really feel that when he's talking about movie projects that he's worked on, or when he's talking about his favorite movies. That he loves what he does. So, and he knows, as an audience member watching movies, he knows what to give audiences. He's had fumbles, hits and misses, of course, but but he loves what he does. He's not just in it for the superstar power,
right?
You know.
But I think you just nailed that. I think you just nailed that, Steph. Is the fact that I don't know how, but I think you summed it up perfectly. He has somehow been able to maintain that perspective of an audience member.
Yeah.
Isn't that? I think that's rare. When you say, Mike, like a star to be able to still be an audience member, because they watch the dailies every day, right? So they must get, by the time a film comes out, Robert, they must get bored. I mean, not bored, but they've seen it 1,000 times.
Yep.
But that's
I was going to say the other interviews I thought were really charming, where there were some small little clips of him at the theaters opening day. I thought that was incredibly authentic, as Robert likes to say. You know, I think that displays some integrity. There was another interview where he talked about he's been on a, let's just say, 4-decade mission to learn about all the aspects of filmmaking, not just reading a script and shooting a shot, but he actually knows how to be a key grip. He knows how to set up stunts, not just do the stunts, but how to set them up, how to program them. And he's been, he regards himself as a bit of a mentor because there's people that he hires to do the work, but Tom has actually seen it and done it more. And so he sees himself almost as the CEO of every production that he does. And I think that speaks to the kind of leadership that was pervasive throughout Hollywood that you would see a lot versus what we have now more and more recent years. You have the vast majority of, quote, producers that really are primarily concerned with getting a check off the top line of the budget and concerned with whatever gobbledygook they've got to say to execs to greenlight stuff so they can get aforementioned check. And then lost in all of that is the integrity of the creative process and the execution of it.
Well said. Well said. Like I would say, my recommendation to people, if you want to support Tom Cruise, go see Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning. I find the exposition to be clunky in the first hour, just overdone. That part almost felt Disney-esque, like homework, but I still enjoyed it. It's just, see, I think that's the power of the movie star that we've lost, where you want to support the person. We don't hear from Tom Cruise every other day on social media. He's not talking about politics or culture or pimples or his ass or what he thinks. So there's that mystique that he has from the past legends, which you didn't know much about them except through gossip rags, right? Or when they were promoting a film on the promotional circuit. So you're able to take that star and carry that mystique into each film. And so the roles, especially if they were good actors, it would come alive. But now when you see, again, I go back to Pedro Pascal, when you hear him constantly yapping away or doing stunts outside of a film when he's promoting it, when he goes into that movie, he's not, to me, that great of an actor. He's a television actor. To me, he's not a film actor. But when he goes into that movie, he's carrying baggage with him. Do y'all see that? It's like he brings himself into it instead of the character.
Well, it's, as I always like to say, it isn't show friends, it's show business, which I got from Jerry Maguire. But the thing about Tom Cruise is, first and foremost, he understands the assignment. He's a movie star and he's a producer, and he understands every aspect of what it is he's doing. And the fact that he went on this global promotion tour, I mean, I'm sure, Paramount pays for all that and he's getting paid to do it, but he's not getting paid to offer his political opinions.
No,
exactly. The man, first of all, he's a producer of his own films. So he's a businessman. He's an actor and he's there to talk about every aspect of the entertainment business. And I think he represents the entertainment business at its best. I mean, one of the things I thought was really fascinating, I don't know if you guys saw this, but he was talking about, I think it was at the BFI, he spoke for an hour in front of they were showing, they did a BFI film festival of all of Tom Cruise's movies, and he spoke in front of that. And he was talking about acting and how a lot of actors need to learn about the lens. Like when you're shooting a movie, how do you consider the lens? Because the lens is the one thing actors should understand that's very different than the theater. Learning how to work with a lens and deliver your performance. And, you don't hear actors talk that way very much about the craft and the process. And, whatever you think about Tom Cruise personally, you cannot deny that he spent his entire career trying to provide an experience for the audience, the best experience he can. Sometimes even a movie that's not so good, like Cocktail, he didn't have the power. He gave it all.
Right,
gave
he
his
did.
all. You
Did
know,
you
you
see
watch
him
that
do
movie.
that?
It's not a great movie.
No.
But he's great in it.
Him and Brian, was it
Brian Brown.
Brian Brown. I think they did. It was a fun movie, but he didn't have that power. I will say, I wholeheartedly agree with you. One of my favorite films of his was one of his first, was Taps. It's the only time he's played a villain. I can't remember him ever playing a villain again.
What a great movie,
Collateral.
though. Yeah.
Well, that's a Michael Mann movie. Okay, but
he was great as and Magnolia. He's kind of a villain.
I see. Magnolia is the only film of his besides All the Right Moves that just never grooved to me. But yeah, all the right moves.
Even when he was baited, to talk about Trump's tariffs,
Oh,
he was
yeah.
like, "I want to keep it to the movies." He didn't take the bait. But he's an incredible actor, and what he's doing in film is incredible. As far as the movie goes, I did go and see it.
Right.
I thought that it was a good start. It was very slow in the middle. I didn't like the underwater as much as you guys did. That part moved so slow, and it was because it was underwater, so it was a slow moving scene. Once the stakes got really high during that part, then it picked up for me. And then the ending was the action scene with the 2 airplanes at the end was incredible. But this is it's a great way to sort of kind of end Ethan Hunt's story if you've been on board with the whole Mission Impossible from the very beginning. I loved how they ended it. Focusing on him and his team. It was a good ending to it. I don't think that it's one of the
Best endings.
best Mission Impossible movies. But it's still like a good way to end the series if it ends. He says it's the final reckoning, but if it ends, it's a good way to end it. It's not the strongest of the Mission Impossible movies, but it's a good way to end it.
You know what's funny about that is that he's given multiple interviews about it. And a year ago, he told the Daily Mail, well, 1 week he told CBS that, this movie would be the final, it's end of the road. But then he told the Daily Mail that he wants to continue to do it like Harrison Ford did Indiana Jones into his 80s. So I think he's leaving it open. The only thing I would say that I missed in the movie was one part. It's like they did all this exposition and all the flashbacks to so many other Mission Impossible films, but you didn't see his wife, unless I missed it. Remember his wife
his wife, yeah.
Did you? Well, I must have missed it when I walked out.
Yeah, there was one clip of Michelle.
Julia.
Yeah, you saw his wife. I think I read somewhere. I'm trying to find the article. I can't find it. But it was I think 45% of people who went and saw Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning went and saw it just for Tom Cruise.
Yeah. See, that's the movie. See?
Yeah.
Steph, you nailed it. What is it now, Valiant? Isn't it at already 204 million globally?
Yeah.
Through the weekend, yeah, I think so far. I mean, the Mission Impossible franchise has always been a stronger international performer than it has domestically. I think for all 8 of the films, at least, up through this one at this point, with the data that we have, albeit limited for one weekend. But listening to what everybody's saying, I had the same kind of reaction. I saw it Thursday. I got the IMAX tickets for the 2:00 fan screening, the first one that the public could get. I went to go see it with Renegade Jr. because he really wanted to go see it. He's 14 today. Today's his birthday.
So happy birthday to him.
A little early. Yeah, I'll let him know. And we went out fishing yesterday. But we both liked it. And the underwater scene, just knowing that, okay, it's really him in a suit, in danger, in a giant gimbal that's rotating, and it's like, wow, that's freaking awesome. The biplane, stunt plane sequence at the end, again, it's really him up there because they've released so much behind-the-scenes footage of it happening, and it's Tom Cruise. That was great, but I agree that I felt like it was a little sluggish, and it was kind of... I had the same reaction, like we got a bit of the entity in the beginning of the film, and then that it just disappeared, and they were basically chasing after, destroying it and capturing it, but we never got another glimpse to remind us kind of who the villain is. It was just Tom Cruise going from one action sequence to another or something along these lines, and I just I need a little something. I think my reaction I posted on X Thursday was something along the lines of it needed a little bit more oomph. I was expecting a little bit more for it being the final entry in this franchise. But look, that being said, from a, I always try to separate, especially on my show, because I get thrown under the bus so many times by people in chat that don't, not my chat, but general chat out there that watches the clips. oh, you didn't even see this, or oh, how can you
Oh
talk
my God,
about
I
this?
get that shit all the time.
I'm like, look, I'm sitting here talking about the box office side and the money side and the commercial side, and I have to keep reminding people you got to separate the commercial success or failure from critical success or failure. There have been critical successes that have been commercial failures.
Right.
There have been commercial successes that have been critical failures. You know, so I mean, this is kind of one of those things to where I feel like I was overall pleased with it, but I've told people in the past I'm jaded. I love this franchise. I have for a very long time. So I granted I'm more into it than say a normie checking it out. But even I was a little, I was wishing for a little bit more. That being said, we'll have to see where this goes. You know, how well this does at the box office. Is it going to make its money back at the box office? I mean, Deadline reported this thing had a budget between $300 and $400 million.
So it needs what?
Even more.
So it needs what?
They
A
won't
billion?
report that, but even more.
Okay. Well, you know what, Robert? Let me ask you, because that's one of the things. Now, when I read that, my first reaction to Deadline reporting that was that is one hell of a wide range right there, $300 to $400 million. That's a big difference between breaking even and not breaking even. What are we talking about? And my other question, Robert, was, okay, you can say $300 to $400 million. Now the question becomes, are we talking about gross spend? Are we talking about net after film tax credits? Because we know that's a big thing, especially with all the international filming that Mission Impossible does in so many different regions. So was the gross spend $400 million, or was the gross spend $500 million, and it netted down to $300 to $400 million with tax credits? Or Robert, what are you hearing?
I've heard about 450 million.
Okay.
Same like Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice was like a $450 million movie.
So you need a billion then to break even, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean that's.
More
but
than
then
that.
again, the thing about it's such a weird when you're talking about the spending of movies. If you actually work on a film, there's a production budget, the actual production budget of a movie. There is studio overhead that nobody talks about. So every movie that a studio makes, they act as if that movie is the only movie a studio makes. And they have the overhead that actually, if Warner Brothers has a studio lot to take care of. They have a whole piece of real estate. They have lots of sound stages. All the movies that each one of these studios make have studio overhead in their budgets that nobody ever talks about. Obviously, marketing is a big deal and a lot of money. Tax credits obviously offset. There's a lot of places that have 30% tax
like
credit.
the UK.
Yeah, which is a lot of
25.5.
money. And then what ends up happening is they can sell those tax credits to other companies,
right?
For say 90 or 95 cents on the dollar,
cash up front.
There's a
Wait
lot
a minute,
of.
Well, 1 second. They can actually sell those for a film to another film.
They can sell them to anybody, not just other films. They can sell them to companies. Like if you're going to make a movie in Illinois, I've been looking into this recently.
That's something new I learned. I didn't know that. So you get 20. I'm sorry, but for the Acolyte, when they got the 25% for shooting it in the UK, you're saying that they can turn around and sell that 25% tax break from the UK to any other company?
I don't know about the UK, but in the United States, yes.
Yeah,
like you
they
could
do it
sell-
here in Louisiana. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole industry here, and it's just
Wow.
people that do nothing but broker film tax credits. I think Georgia, you can do the same thing. And the idea is that if you're if you're a production, right, and typically whether it's done in the UK or whether it's done here in the States, all these studios tend to create a singular legal entity, an LLC, typically, that will house all of the pass-through costs and everything else for that.
Yeah,
production.
every production is its own LLC.
Right. Exactly. And one of the reasons they do that is, apart from just keeping things nice and clean, is that a lot of these places out there that do film tax credits, both here domestically and abroad, especially in the UK, they require it. And, there's special rules you have to go through. The thing is, though, when you're getting film tax credits, it's not like, okay, you mentioned the Acolyte.
Right.
So you start shooting production on that thing in October, November of 2022 or whatever it was, 23, I can't remember.
Right.
And those film tax credits, we pull the documents from the UK. We actually show, here's Blue Stockings. Well, we don't have to guess what they spent. It's all reported here. Now, a lot of the overhead, like that Robert's talking about, not necessarily is going to pump through there. But at some point, like on a studio piece of paper where they show the people that have participations and residuals in it, they go, oh, look, we really didn't make any money because we take down expenses for the entire studio in every film like it's the only film we got. But in terms of what they actually spend in the entity to get the film tax credits, The problem is you're shooting for, say, you know, in the case of a TV show, maybe 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, depending on how big a show it is. Those film tax credits, you actually have to file that return. It's like a tax return. You only file it once a year.
Yeah.
So you're waiting a long time to get. It might be a year or two before you actually get the tax credit back. Well, the problem is the production is now. So if you're going to spend X amount of dollars on a production, okay, and you know that based on this, like in the UK, we can get back 25.5%, up to 25.5% on eligible expenses, which in that case, same thing in Louisiana, same thing in Georgia and everywhere else. You're not getting 25.5% back on paying your writers and your executive producers or Pedro Pascal or the main actors in the movie or the director, all the above the line people. You ain't getting tax credits for that.
Well, sometimes depending on states, they'll let you take like your 4 top talent. You can. Everybody's different.
You're right, they do. But yeah, like in the UK, they definitely, like, everything there it's mostly centered around local labor. So if you rent out a local soundstage, if you hire local caterers, if you hire local labor to work at the set, that's where you are maximizing your return on your film tax credit is for. So like Great Britain is not giving you tax credits on above the line people for sure. You're getting it on British labor and things like renting Pinewood, renting Shinfield. That's where your tax credits are coming in. You have to put part of the cast and crew up at a schwanky hotel in London for several months. You're going to get you're not going to get 25.5% on that, but you're going to get somewhere up that scale. So the point is that instead of waiting an extended period of time to get this, because they need the cash now, so they have a choice. Like if you're Disney or somebody else, you either have to expand your access to the line of credit, say at Barclays Bank or HSBC when they finance Disney products in the UK. They can take out the extra $100 million, which sometimes they do, knowing they're going to get that film tax credit back. But in order to get that cash back in hand so the interest costs don't keep going up, or you can continue producing, you go through a broker and you say, we expect to be due $80 million in film tax credits for blah.
Wow. So let me ask you a question.
They'll sell it early and get the cash in early to either liquidate the line of credit or a part of it, or actual continual production costs that they're paying cash out of hand.
So let me ask you this. So a film that shoots globally like Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, so it develops a strategy then based also on tax credits around the world, like where it's going to film.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you got to remember, instead of like, if they were just filming everything in the UK and maybe a couple of things in California or Georgia, if they're filming in 8 different countries, they're dealing with 8 different film tax credit systems and they have to file individually for each one. It is a freaking metric crap ton of work.
But that's going to play into their strategy for making it successful, like for eking out a profit. Okay.
Yeah.
There's another thing.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, in Illinois, for instance, if you are going to shoot in, say, economically depressed areas, so they've got a 30% tax credit. If you shoot in some kind of, say economically depressed area, you get more tax credits above and beyond that, because the hope is that you will employ locals, you will use local businesses. And what it does, it's an economic incentive for you to come spend your budget employing local personnel and going to local businesses. Because the thing about movies is that when people are going somewhere to make films, they also spend the money they make in those local communities. That's why Louisiana understood this, Georgia understood this, because if you're making an Avengers movie for 6 months, all the people, the hundreds and hundreds of people that work on that crew, they're going to go out to dinner Friday night. They're going to pay for wherever their lodging is going to be. They're going to go shopping. They're going to do everything. So suddenly you have this deluge of money that you don't normally get suddenly arrives in your state or in your country. And so it works out for everybody, really.
But does it impact the quality of the film?
I don't think so. I think that
because Aaron Charman brought that up. He had an interesting statement in the chat. He's like, and this is how we get unintentionally bad films. Like, does it impact the film itself?
No, I mean, it depends. Like, look, what you want to do in the case of Mission Impossible, they actually went to South Africa and shot. South Africa is they have economic incentives to go shoot there, and they have they have landscape that you can't get anywhere else. And I think that Mission Impossible made good use. That biplane sequence was all shot, as far as I know, in South Africa.
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah, so they get to do that. It doesn't affect the quality of the movie. It really doesn't. It has that's up to the writer, the director, and the rest of the crew to make the movie great. But you know, I think that what's really interesting about this as a business, obviously, you want to, you know, the idea of keeping the business here in the United States is a good thing, but like so many other businesses, it's a lot more expensive to shoot here on every level because our quality of life is much higher
But
than
Trump's
it is
trying
in
to
other
change
places in
that.
the world.
But Trump's trying to change that now.
But
with those
you can't
tariffs.
you can't change the rate of how people get paid in the United States.
Right.
You're never going to be able to do that.
All right, let's.
I mean, George, it's like if Mexican Iron Man were to go back to California and do a movie.
Right.
I mean, I've got expenses, bro. I mean, Mexican Iron Man Productions as a studio. I mean, I've got Plan B Girly Girl Club that I've got to entertain. You know, some of the set.
a little
people
DI dust.
I've got to have my boat and docked in Malibu. You know what's left of the wreckage out there.
Yeah, but what happens with the tariffs where he was saying, real quick before we take the super chats, where he was saying he was going to put 100% tariffs on movies made outside of America?
I still don't even know what he was talking about with
I don't
that.
either.
And there really hasn't been any explanation. And that this is one of these things that like Trump has done that I just like, well, he hadn't done it yet. He just said it, but I don't know what that means because some of these films, like you just pointed out, like Robert just pointed out, like we're all talking about here, is
right.
You make a choice. You need the landscape of a New Zealand or a South Africa, or you get a shoot like Mission Impossible in 7 different countries because it's a global spy thriller.
Right.
How the hell could you shoot all that in the States? You can't, not nearly as effectively. If you're going to try to rebuild this on a soundstage or, God forbid, like a digital 4D
Yeah, I think he was talking more about television, though. All the stuff that,
But remember,
depends
it's
what
still
you're
an
doing.
American company.
Yeah.
Our movies and television are one of our great exports. It's the one export that we trump, so to speak, everybody else in terms of we make a lot more money exporting our entertainment to the United States than we import. There is no trade imbalance when it comes to the entertainment that we make. And it ultimately all comes back to the United States. I mean, we're finishing it here, you know, we're distributing it through American companies and that kind of thing. So it's an export that's very successful for us.
I think he's talking about Hollywood, about LA, how last year they said it's the lowest time in LA's history for filming in Los Angeles.
Yeah, because we took it for granted forever, and we made it impossible to shoot here because everyone wants a taste.
Yep. Money.
Yep, that's just it. When you can go do the same thing in a studio in the UK or Vancouver
Canada,
or something like this, and you don't have all the regulations, you have less barriers with things like organized labor unions to deal with. I mean, why do you think Universal, when they bought Illumination Studios, which has been very successful for them, Super Mario Brothers and all that, right? Why do you think they left it in Paris?
Yeah.
You want to bring it here? I'm like, wait, why? We're gonna leave it right where it is because we know what we got, and if we bring it over, if we bring it home to California, then they're gonna be spending $200+ million a movie like Disney is, instead of the $100 million that it's costing them. Plus, they probably do a better job of doing it right to begin with. Disney loves to do things 2 or 3 times till they figure it out. So
with Paris employment law the way it is, I can't believe you're saying it's worse in California.
Well, apparently, I think if explain how Super Mario Brothers costs $120 million according to what's been listed out there, and you see a lot of these Disney movies and all this kind of stuff that come in, Pixar movies coming in with $200 million spends.
Yeah,
how?
I'd love to figure that out. Real quick, let's finish these super chats and then we will jump forward. Eric K, King of the Mods, gifted 5 George. What was that? George the Giant Slayer memberships. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Please thank Eric K. We just grew a little bit more. Bob the Lobster also gifted 5 George the Giant members. What the hell is going on with me today? I think it's Memorial Day weekend and the heat has started to get to me. Bob the Lobster has gifted 5 George the Giant Slayer memberships. Thank you, Bob. This is the way we keep growing. Love it. Go thank Bob. And Mr. Buttcrack Media is back. Hail, George. And to all in the chat, glad to be here. Glad that you're always here, my good friend. We also have Mr. Buttcrack Media gifted 5 George the Giant Slayer memberships. That is the way to go. 15 racked up in just a few seconds. I love to see that. Thank you. J.S. Pena, member for 2 months. Pineapple on pizza is gay.
Don't let me any.
I agree.
I don't like pineapple
agree.
on pizza. I don't like fruit. Doesn't belong on a fucking pizza.
I'm not going to stand for any pineapple hate on this show, you bigot. You pizza
I am
bigot.
a pineapple pizza bigot. Period.
I am pro pineapple.
I'm pro pineapple too. Not on a damn pizza.
Not on a pizza.
Not on a pizza.
Fucking pineapple on pizza. Of course, the Canadians.
Not even
get
the
it.
right. It's not even. It doesn't feel right in your mouth.
No,
People stop it right now.
Yes,
It's not the right consistency, dude.
You got a sausage or a piece of pepperoni, and all of a sudden this sweety yellow lemony things. No. WG for $20. Happy Memorial Day, George Company. Happy Memorial Day to you, WG. Glad to see you here. Really appreciate it. Mark Daly for $10. Cash said in an interview, Epstein took care of himself. He must have seen the note. Please excuse Jeffrey for his behavior. He's been very depressed. Signed, Epstein's mother. I would love to talk about that. Yeah. I'm going to wait. My verdict is out on Cash and Bongino, which I had high hopes in. I'm waiting. I'm going to be patient.
George, you got to stop. You know, you conservative types need to chill out because look.
I said I'm patient. I'm patient. I said I'm giving.
Look, especially with Pam Bondi, bro. You don't realize the commitment she has to the Fox Network hair and makeup department, bro. That takes time.
I don't like Pam Bondi. I know what Pam Bondi's doing. Pam Bondi has one job. They just didn't explain to the American people. She's there to stop the Department of Justice from weaponizing itself against the president, like what happened in term one. That's all she's there for. But they can't say, hey, I'm here to make sure to babysit that the DOJ doesn't go after President Trump for some bullshit. And spending all her time on Fox News. What's this, 150th time the other day? Mark Daly for $10. R.I.P. Peter David. Pour one out for the best writer of Trek novels and a brilliant comic writer. The novel, Imzadi, was not only a fabulous read, a poem in the book won me my first girlfriend. Hey, thanks, Peter. Thank you, Mark, for sharing that.
It's a great book, by the way.
Here's one to Peter David.
Generation.
Oh, God. And talking about that, Paul, I didn't realize Paul Giamatti is part of Star Trek Academy.
He's the villain.
I know, but how does Paul Giamatti go from being Paul Giamatti to Star Trek Academy?
He's still Paul Giamatti.
I don't know.
You know what? Because he loves Star Trek and they want to do it. They don't realize
That's
how
not
creatively
Star Trek.
bankrupt. Yeah, but they don't, look, you're not going to get me to defend Star Trek.
Okay.
My favorite franchise that's been bastardized more than any franchise ever has in the history of franchises.
Well, I'll tell you this. You want to see good, recent Paul Giamatti work, then go watch his episode from this season of Black Mirror. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, that's a great.
I love Paul Giamatti.
That was
Great
freaking
work.
awesome. God, I love Black Mirror. That was I thought the best episode of the season. I love the USS Callister ones. Like
that was really good too, which they're ripping off for Strange New Worlds.
Come
they're
on.
ripping off Galaxy Quest, and they're ripping. I just can't. Don't get me started, dude. You don't want me to rant.
I do, because I can't. You know what? I call.
Hey, George.
Yeah.
Heads up. Whatever your topic list is, Valiant has to leave in about 10 to 15 minutes to get ready for hit show. So
Okay,
whatever's on your list, you got to use Valiant while you got him.
Yeah, I'll try to hang around as long as I can. I've got a few more things I got to put together here, and then
Not a problem. I understand that.
I got to go do birthday cake too.
All right. Well, talking about birthday, happy birthday, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Oh, is it really?
No, it's every day is my birthday.
Oh, okay.
My actual birthday was May 15th, but people wish me happy birthday. It's been going on for over a year now. It's so weird.
Happy birthday to you.
And
Who did
all
that?
right.
Who has that button?
I don't know. It must have been Fletcher.
Fletcher, you're fired.
We'll read real quick through the rest of these, then we'll jump to the next topic. Real quick. Bring them up. Eric K for $2. Hope I'm not the only one looking forward to F1. I am actually looking forward to F1. I am. Hell yeah. Mark
I've been looking forward
Daly.
to that for a while.
$10. Circling back to Fantastic Four. Besides dumbing down Reed to an unacceptable level, they took all the heroism out of him and make him completely subservient to Mary Sue Storm, plus female surfer and unacceptable. Yes, what's worse is they supposedly gave the female Silver Surfer Norrin Rad's storyline in the reshoots.
Yeah, but it's not our universe.
I know,
Remember
but
that.
it bothers me. Anyway, it bothers me. Thank you, Mark, for that. Bo Edmonds became a YouTube member. Welcome aboard. Love it. Nick the Greek member for 4 months. Yasu, and happy Memorial Day to our service members. Yasu to you, Nico. Always great to see you, feeling. And Happy Memorial Day to our service members. Tender Warrior 68 gifted 5 Georgia Giant Slayer membership. Way to go. Love seeing that. Everybody go think Tender Warrior. And Epic Mike. Man, Mike, you should have told me you were here. I didn't see it. I send you a link. You could join us. Much love, George. He said for $10. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate you. Can't wait to see more from Epic Universe. Love it. Or Epic first, sorry. A Mark of Reality for $5. Isn't Hollywood also moving to more business-friendly states like Georgia? What about Florida, where they have their parks? You'd have to ask Valiant about that one.
I mean, the quick answer is, I mean, the studios, it's much more difficult to uproot an entire studio and corporate, basically corporate home, and uproot it and move it across the country. The other reason, I mean, they do some shooting in Florida, but one of the reasons they go to other locations is for certain cityscapes or certain landscapes. And Florida, let's be honest, it has very similar landscapes, beaches and whatnot to California. So not to mention the fact that in this day and age, obviously there's not a single studio in California probably that wants to shoot in Florida because they think they're all Trump-loving Ron DeSantis, evil Republicans. I mean, look, it plays a factor for stuff like that.
Come on, man. Roadhouse was shot in Florida with Jake Gyllenhaal.
And now they're doing it with Guy Ritchie.
I didn't watch that.
Which I can't believe. Awesome. I can't believe Guy Ritchie is doing Roadhouse season 2. Yes, he is. And I love Mobland. I watched Mobland.
I haven't watched the episode from today, so don't say anything.
Oh, I got to tell you. Let me just tell you.
No, don't tell me anything. I haven't watched it yet. I haven't had time.
Who ends up getting the... Yeah, well, okay.
I haven't seen any
the
of
Last
it.
of Us season finale tonight. Come on now.
Fukushima for $2. Hey, Steph, you have lovely eyes. Will I down in it? What? Will I down in it? Drowned. Okay. Well, he loves your eyes, Steph.
Thank you.
I think you're getting hit on there, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Aaron Charman gifted 5 Georgia Giant Slayer memberships. Aaron, bless you. Thank you, my friend. Please go thank Aaron. I am going to hold a member stream this week. Just don't know what day because I just miss you all. Major Chai Chai for $2. Aaron Charman, thanks for the gifted membership. Hey, yeah. Please thank Aaron. Stand-up guy. All right, here is the next thing.
By the way, Major Chai Chai is an actual major. She has served.
Okay.
She's
I
retired.
did not know that. Well, we salute you. Thank you. I didn't know that at all.
In the Air Force.
Cool. I'm going to play this 1 second because it's going to lead us into...
Ohana means family. Family means nobody gets
left behind
or
forgotten.
Ohana means family.
Well, it seemed that Disney forgot that. I have not seen Lilo and Stitch, but I've been reading that fans, and one of them is Valliant Renegade. He shared his thoughts on Lilo and Stitch. What is it that happened in the end? I think Disney sent us a message that fuck family.
Well, look, like I said, like I told everybody, to be fair, I had not seen it yet. I went to go see Mission Impossible this week, and I was fully anticipating going to see Lilo and Stitch, and I probably still will. I just ran across, all of a sudden, I'm looking Friday, whenever it was, and like all these articles dropping about it. The ending has changed. The ending has changed. I was like, what could they possibly have changed? And we'll be talking about this more on my show today in a few hours, but this is one of these things that just drives me nuts. Okay,
Right.
You're going to go out, you're going to remake a classic movie that was, for all intents and purposes, perfect as it was, right? It was beloved and everything. Let's be honest, there's not a whole lot, if any, talent at Disney Creative anymore to make new stuff, which is why they don't, right? Everything's a remake, a reboot, whatever.
Recycle.
Yeah, recycle. So why let these people go in and mess with something that was... The whole reason you're doing a remake of this is because it was a big hit, and you want to get that again. Why fiddle with it? Well, it's apparently they fiddled with it. And the ending has changed according to all these reports. There doesn't seem to be any disagreement with it, so I'm going to treat it as gospel.
I can tell you from watching clips from seeing it online from some pirates.
Yeah,
on the high seas that the ending's changed.
Of those.
Yeah,
Which
it's changed completely.
The whole point of the story of basically sacrificing to make sure that family stays together, and at the end of this one, Nani decides that, okay, well, Lilo is gonna live with the neighbor, and then she's gonna go off to college to become a marine biologist. And I'm reading this, and I'm going, what? And my question is, okay, why? What was wrong with the original
What did you think,
movie?
Steph?
I saw the movie.
Okay. Is it what we've seen In the
It very
clip
much is, yes. The message of Ohana, a message of family. We stick together no matter what. Family means no one gets left behind or forgotten.
Gone.
Is completely taken away. Like that message is gone. In fact, Nani actually rejects Ohana at one point. And in its place, they bring in a new word, which is kuliana. I think that's how you say it, and it's a message of responsibility. And it's basically, Nani keeps telling Lilo that, it's kind of like, no, you're now my responsibility. In other words, like, you're my burden. You're my burden now.
I was right. I knew it. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm gonna ask you about that when you're finished. I had a feeling of that.
You're my burden. The movie makes sure to show that she is a burden. Lilo is a burden. And in the end, it is a very selfish meaning of Ohana in the end, because the neighbor lady tells her that, yes, family means no one gets left behind, but you need to make sure that you don't leave yourself behind. So it's an incredibly selfish message of Ohana. She does give up Lilo to Lilo goes into foster care. And I think that a lot of people are like, no, she doesn't go into foster care. She goes to with her family. That neighbor lady isn't family. That's David's mom.
Right.
Or David's grandma or something like that. She goes into foster care. And before she even goes into foster care, to the neighbor, the day before, Nani is ready and willing to give her up to the state. They come over to take Lilo away from her, and she's ready to give her up.
That's not the original. That's not the original. That's not what happened. It's
so like that whole, I think like a lot of people who are liking this movie haven't seen the Lilo and Stitch movie in a long time. Yeah, they haven't either. They haven't seen it, or they haven't seen it in a long time. So they're liking this movie. But like, yeah, she gives her up, and she goes to the neighbor lady, and Nani can visit her whenever she wants, but she needs to make sure that she doesn't leave herself behind. I went and saw this with one of my friends who isn't in this whole world, doesn't keep up with news or whatever, and I was asking her, like, when it was over, because I wanted to like this movie. I really did. I love Lilo and Stitch. I love them. I wanted to like it, and I was trying to rationalize liking it in my mind, but I didn't like it. And I asked her, like, what did you think? And she said, I hated it. I didn't like it. They changed it. They changed it all. And I asked her, is it too much of a reach for me to say that this was a pro-choice movie? Like, if you have a child, like it becomes nothing but a burden, and your best bet is to get rid of the said child.
Brought to you by Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger.
because she asked me, like, they took out Ohana. So what are they trying to tell you with this movie? What is the message of this movie? And that's when I asked her, like, is it too much of a reach for me to say that this is a pro-choice movie? Because at the end, Nani gives up Lilo, and that's her family, and and it's for her benefit. For her benefit to go to college and to better herself, and become a cog in the work, in work, right? In the machine. And that the state almost, like the lady, the social worker, practically manipulates Nani at one point in the movie and says that, we'll take care of all of the bills, Nani. You have nothing to worry about, and you can go to college. All you have to do is sign away your rights to your sister.
Right.
Sign away the rights to Lilo. I mean, and so it is, to me, I think it is a very kind of pro-choice movie, because they keep telling Nani that you're not going to be able to achieve everything you want to achieve if you have this child, if you have Lilo, if you're responsible for her.
I'm so glad you confirmed that, because it's everything that I worried about when I saw the clip, which is the fact that it felt like you had one of these fourth wave radical feminists who wrote it and who turned around and said, guess what? You want to succeed? You give all hail to the nanny state. Screw your family. It's all about you. Why I love the original, because it was about family. You get to learn about family and honoring the family from another different world.
It fits the pattern. That was my initial reaction when I saw the story, and I've now seen it multiple places. When I saw the story, my gut reaction was, great. This is what happens when you keep letting the intersectional feminism at the Stories Matter group at Disney keep getting involved in stuff. The pattern is Little Mermaid live-action remake. What did they do? Well, the female character didn't have enough self-power, didn't have enough agency, so let's alter the story to where Ariel kills Ursula instead of Eric, which negates the entire arc of the story because the whole point was to get King Triton to trust humans. When Eric kills Ursula in the original, boom, there we go, completed arc. Now we've changed it radically for no reason other than girl power. Let's go to Snow White. What did we do? We did the same damn thing, basically. We changed the story unnecessarily to fit modern audiences. Now we have the same damn thing from the exact same branch of Disney. Disney Studios, the studio that does all of these live-action Disney films, the live-action remakes, they did the same damn thing here. They took Nani and they said, well, there's no man in this, but she sure don't need no man, but she damn sure doesn't need to be tied down, raising a child, and take away from her ability to be an independent, strong woman. So they changed. I'm sorry, it sounds crazy, and if this was the first movie that Disney had done, I'd probably just shake my head and move on, but it's the pattern that bothers me. It's the fact that Disney feels like they have to keep doing this to like you're remaking these things, then don't change anything. Why did you have to add 40 minutes of extra screen time to Little Mermaid and add a bunch of really bad music and change the story? Just make the original. That's what everybody expects. Guess what? That movie lost money. Then you got Snow White. Guess what? That movie lost a ton of money. Now, Lilo and Stitch is not going to lose money by any account that I can see so far.
No,
But this is what I was saying earlier. This is the difference between separating commercial success from critical success, right? There's two different avenues here. So yes, this movie is still going to probably make a good bit of money. But from what it sounds like, it's another one of those irritants. Like, this did not need to be changed, but for the fact that you don't like, how traditional family or something like this. It all has to be about this character empowerment at the end of the story.
It bothers me, Valiant, though. It bothers me. I hope when I'll take hope if next week it drops over 60%, because then it will tell me that the culture has rejected that message. Everybody went there all excited. But if it doesn't have a massive drop, I'm going to say there's more damage to society about concerning the nuclear family and children.
You can tell that this is written by somebody who is a feminist, who doesn't have any children and who doesn't really hold family values, because these are the types of people who will reject and leave their family over their political beliefs, right? Like they have no problem leaving their family over disagreements. And you can tell that this is written by someone like that, because even Stitch, like, I think people, if you're going to watch this movie for the character of Stitch and how cute he is very cute in this movie. But even like the lesson that he learns and how he comes to be in this family in the original animated movie, and the things that he learns from his family and his little arc in Lilo and Stitch is changed in this movie. And it's kind of like, why does he even need to be with them?
It doesn't,
in this movie. How did he learn family from this family? Because there really is no message of family in there.
By everything you shared, he did. And now we also have the Ashton Blaise is joining us again.
I'm so glad I popped it at the right time. My internet was buggy all morning. I think it's so funny because, again, I remember talking about this. I believe it was actually with you, with my nerdy home about this, where even she was saying, what happens? I really hope it doesn't end up being successful, because what happens when Snow White is so bad? Now Disney's saying, oh, we're going to pause all of our live action remakes, and heaven forbid Lilo and Stitch does super well, and this Disney goes, oh, so you do like live action remakes?
Yeah, that's what I've been saying.
I don't think it's gonna. I think it is gonna drop off pretty badly after the premiere. And the reason I say is because, like, everybody from liberals, conservatives, everyone I'm hearing from does not like the ending. They hate it because the whole premise of the original film was Ohana. Nobody gets left behind. So what the hell was that? What happened to Ohana? What happened to nobody gets left behind? Oh, I guess for Nani it doesn't matter anymore. And it's so sad because Nani's main characteristic that made her so strong and interesting and powerful was how much she loved her family and how much she cared about keeping her family together after the death of her parents. And that was so important. And instead they made her a very selfish character in the end. And people can argue, oh, well, maybe Lilo will find a better situation if Nani. Not always. Most kids who end up in the foster care do not end up well. They don't end up with good situations. In fact, they often go home from home to home to home. So really, what is Disney really trying to say with this film? I don't think it's going to do well over the course of the next few weekends. I think word has already gotten out because I heard about the ending scene before I even saw it. And I didn't believe it at first. And I feel like people were already kind of popping off from not watching this movie to begin with because, one, people were already upset about the lack of natives in the film, so they replaced the character that wasn't supposed to be native, right? The fat white guy, the fat white tourist, right? They changed him to a native, but then it kind of completely erases the whole point of the fat white tourist getting his picture taken by Lilo. And then there was the issue with Pleakley's not going to be in drag anymore, which nobody cared about in the early 2000s because as kids, we didn't think about that stuff. We didn't care. We just thought, ha ha ha, funny guy in a dress, you know? Like,
that's why they can't do it, because we'd still go, ha, 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 funny guy in a dress, and in 2025, you can't laugh at a guy in a dress anymore.
It's just,
I still laugh at a guy in a dress.
Everything has to have some I'm so against. I don't be one of those people who's like, oh, I'm against politics in movies because politics is always going to exist in movies. But it's when you try to put too many things in at once, and then sort of mess with the main core value of every story. The main core value of Lilo and Stitch was family. That was very apparent, and they completely twisted that up and threw it into a dumpster fire. So what's the point? Now you just got this little like cute blue alien. That wasn't the reason people love Stitch. Now, don't get me wrong, the marketing for Stitch back in the 2000s was absolutely brilliant. I mean, if you remember what they did in Disney World with this with the tassel covered in toilet paper. Oh shoot, am I echoing?
Yeah, your mic is coming in a little bit odd. Yeah.
The character of Nani, what's interesting with that character in the live action is they took the animated Nani and they made her two separate characters. So they took like the irresponsible Nani, the one that kind of like is really frustrated with her sister and is screwing up all the time, and they gave that to the live action Nani. The family values side of Nani, who wants to fight for her, blah blah blah, they gave that to the neighbor.
I see.
That's what happened with that character. They split it in half, and they gave all of the good stuff, that all the family value stuff that, you know, we want to keep your family, all that, they gave it to the neighbor.
Well, before Valliant goes, I want to go one more thing, and we can always come back real quick to Lilo and Stitch, because you've covered so much of Disney, and you know Disney in and out. And I also want to hear what Robert thinks about this, both of y'all's perspectives. Ryan Reynolds gave an interview to the Box Office podcast yesterday, and he said he shared a pitch with Disney, and one of his ways he believes to save Star Wars. I'm not going to say what it is. I just want you to hear it.
Right at the top. I pitched to Disney. I said, like, why don't we do an R-rated Star Wars property? It doesn't have to be like an overt A+ characters. There's a wide range of characters you could use. And I don't mean R-rated to be vulgar. R-rated as a Trojan horse for emotion. I always wonder why studios don't want to just gamble on something like that. I'm not saying I want to be in it. That would be a bad fit. I would want to produce and write or be a part of behind the scenes. And those kinds of IP subsist really well on scarcity and surprise. We don't get scarcity really with Star Wars because there's deep Disney Plus, but you can certainly still surprise people.
My only reservation when that kind of thing comes up, and right now, Walter Hamada is producing a Ninja Turtles cartoon that's based on an R-rated graphic novel. And it's
is it based on the Penthouse Forum? This is
violence, not sex.
Okay, Jim, gotcha.
And my feeling is that like we get so few mainstream adult programmers that I get grouchy when, okay, what we really need to do is take the kids stuff and make that for adults.
Okay, guys, what do you think? R-rated Star Wars movie going to save Star Wars?
No, Star Wars is dead. Nothing's saving Star Wars. Nothing is saving Star Wars. I'm sorry. The Mandalorian was the one chance with season 1, and then went, nope, no more Star Wars. I'm sorry. Listen, there is such an easy formula to Star Wars, and Disney really said, let's throw that into a dumpster fire. Let's just take it. And the thing is that the problem is that these studios don't want to write movies. They want to sell products.
Right.
They don't care about telling good stories. They want to sell merchandise. Because the thing is, you can make a movie as crummy as you can, and people are still going to buy merchandise. They're still going to buy things. They're still going to, no matter what, Disney might be losing money in the box office, but they're still, Little Mermaid was terrible. And I don't mean that because of the actress who played Ariel. I think she was a great singer, but everything from cinematography to oh my gosh, shoot. Okay, I'll have to fix my mic, but I really do want to get this out there. Everything, the cinematography, the costuming in Little Mermaid was awful. It really needed some work. But people were still buying the merchandise in the theme parks. People are still buying merchandise at Walmart. Like, I don't know what it was, but there was still a class of people who was like, we're going to buy everything we possibly can. Same thing with Lilo and Stitch. People are still going to buy the popcorn buckets. They're still buying the zippers for some reason. They're still going to buy everything they possibly can for this stuff. That's what Disney's trying to do. They're not trying to market movies. They're marketing towards merchandising.
Right. I agree. Valiant, what do you think about Ryan Reynolds' idea?
I mean, I get where he's going, but I agree. I mean, nothing's going to help it at this point. If Star Wars was a very healthy intellectual property right now, then sure, you can take a flyer on something like that potentially. But as of right now, no, there's nothing left there. As far as merchandising and all that goes, yeah, I mean, that's generally been the lifeblood. Once again, you know, I've been Target today, and there's, you know, Lego, biggest toy company in the world, right? One of their biggest sellers is still classic Star Wars. That's why Disney segregates this stuff when they actually do their reporting. Because in the past, they've talked about the overperformance of classic Star Wars, which is pre-Disney Star Wars on their books, versus products that go to Lego or Hasbro or what have you that come from the Disney-made stuff, which is basically not, it doesn't sell, nothing sells, it's non-existent except for, you know, maybe somebody's lightsaber or something, like it's one of the few things. So there's really not a whole lot of gas in the tank there to do that. I mean, I don't think that's going to work.
You don't think a Deadpool Wolverine type of, because that's what it sounded like. I mean, I know he was saying something different, but Star Wars to me has multiple layers to the character, so I really didn't know.
Yeah, he said no. He said not vulgar, right? So imagine, you know, not a bunch of F-bombs, not Ryan Reynolds type vulgar humor, not a lot of sex stuff, but probably, I guess, from the standpoint of being more adult, more violent, more bloody, because of, I mean,
You
what
can
actually
have
happen if he got
things
stabbed
be
with a lightsaber,
adult.
but
I'm
yeah.
sorry. You can
Yeah, no, I
have
was
things
gonna
be adult without them being disgusting. You can have them be
Right.
adult without there being a sex scene or violence or gore. Like, there's so many beautiful stories that are written that are family friendly with very interesting stories and plots and themes. Like How to Train Your Dragon, I would say is marketed towards kids, but I would argue is actually a coming of age story that the whole family can enjoy.
The movie's great too.
How to Train Your
Yeah.
Dragon is
it?
probably one of the best trilogies that I've ever watched. It
Agreed.
is so
Really?
great.
Even
It's
with
amazing.
even with that actor
It's
from
amazing.
Deadpool 2, I couldn't stand that actor, but it's good. Huh?
I've seen the whole the live action film, and it has a really interesting. The first 20 minutes of it, I'm like, it wasn't working for me at all, and I had a really interesting experience because I'm with you in the sense that the three How to Train Your Dragon films are all terrific. It's one of the
Yes.
great trilogies, cinema trilogies, and I'm not the target audience, but I have all three on. I have the 3D Blu-rays, and those films. First of all, the 3D on those films is terrific. Those movies are great, and we saw it at CinemaCon. And after the first half an hour, I was like enchanted. And it's not a remake, but it understands. I mean, you have the actual creator coming back to do it, and it works, man. That movie's gonna make $1 billion.
1 sec, Rob, because Valiant has to go. Let's just get, he needs to go to prep for his show, and then we'll get right back to it. Valiant, thank you for coming. You got to come back again. I've missed you. And,
Yeah, we'll have to
you're
try
fun.
to. It's always hard because, like, you're
I
doing your
know.
show the same day, right? Because that's usually when I'm putting mine together. But one thing I wanted to throw out there, going back to Lilo and Stitch real quick,
Yeah,
talking
please.
about what the drop off is going to be. I'd be a little cautious about that because here's the deal. There was a lot of excitement coming into this.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of people that are like, I really want to go see it. I want to go see it. And they've wanted to see it since the trailer dropped. I've said since we saw the first trailer on the first day drop, I said, that's it. Disney finally has, there's no way this is not going to be $1 billion movie because even I could see that. And boom, it's still going to be. I'd be very shocked if this thing
You
falls
think
off.
so?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think people of all directions politically are complaining about the ending and the movie and how it's missing different parts.
But it's still going to, all the normies are still going to go run out and see
Yeah,
it.
the normies
You're
are gonna
You're
watch it.
still going to have nearly $380 million this weekend. There's nothing next weekend to compete with it. The first thing that's going to be competing with it is 2 weeks from now, okay,
Right.
which is a lot of time for a movie like Lilo and Stitch to just run the tables. And it's probably exactly what it's going to do. And that's How to Train Your Dragon on June 6th. So
And
it's
that'll
gotta-
swamp everything.
That will consume the IMAX, the PLFs, and everything else, because there's really nothing else coming out that weekend that's going to compete. But right now, between Mission Impossible, eating a lot of PLFs, all the IMAXs, you got Lilo and Stitch out there. There's not a lot of breathing room for anything else. The kids are all out of school. By the time people actually, they've already made their decision to go see it. They're not really looking online to see what the stories coming out about it are. Now,
See what some bald libertarian guy has to say about it. No offense, no offense to the bald libertarians in the chat, but that's probably true. Like the families aren't looking to geeks and gamers and the
Right.
different YouTubers to see what their opinion of it is.
the existing normie audience that's running out to see it right now, here's how the movie collapses. Is that because movies that typically run up, even in 2025 crazy ticket prices right now. Because if I go see Lilo and Stitch in a PLF right now, it's $17.75 in my little New Orleans suburb. Okay, and I don't live in New York. I don't live in Burbank. I mean, it's $17. The IMAX ticket here where I live to go see Mission Impossible at 2 p.m. was $23. It was almost $28 if I went in the evening. So my point is that in this day and age, getting over $1 billion, it's not when they say, oh, this is the next movie. Movies that did $1 billion 10, 15 years ago, it's a different galaxy compared to doing $1 billion today. It's way easier today to hit $1 billion given the ticket price averages and the proliferation of IMAX and PLF screens. That's number one. Number two,
There
like
will
I said, no
will never be
competition.
another Lion King.
Not
Animation-wise.
probably not at that scale because they just don't make them like that anymore. But with Lilo and Stitch, like I said, by the time we get to the end of the day tomorrow with the Memorial Day, it's $300 million right now through Sunday. So by the time we get tomorrow, they're estimating almost another $40 million domestically tomorrow for Memorial Day. All the kids are out of school. School's all done. They're going to be this is parents have already made their decision or families have already made their decision. They're going to go see it anyway. So it's not going to take a lot for this thing to keep doing. What's going to stop it is when people decide not to go back to see it a second time, if they do. Because even in today's ticket prices, to get $1.5 billion, or 1.2 or even $1 billion, you've got to have a decent little bit of rewatch, right? Top Gun Maverick, $1.5 billion, because people went back to see it again and again and again. Same thing with most of these movies. Spider-Man No Way Home, it did almost $2 billion because people went back to go see it several times, right? You've got to have the same thing with Lilo and Stitch. Now, the question is not whether or not the people are going to see it the first time. The people have already made up their minds. They're going to go see it the first time. That much is clear from the box office.
So what about Mission Impossible? Where do you see it ceiling?
I think right now with its $200 million start, the differences with Mission Impossible is that they do tend to have a bit more of a leg historically. They don't just, it's not like a Marvel movie where you can literally set your watch practically by the day 4 or 5 on a Marvel movie that comes out. Half or more of its box office is already in the tank. We know exactly where it's going to land. I mean, you can pretty much just hit the 2.25x button on every Marvel movie, and that's where it's going to fall. Mission Impossible does tend to does tend to go a little bit further out. Now, some of its bigger markets, I think, like Japan, is still a couple of weeks away from opening. Very popular in Japan, Tom Cruise movies.
You think it'll make its money?
Probably not at the box office. Almost certainly not. The thing is, though, with Mission Impossible is, Paramount is not as closed up as Disney is, where Disney consumes all of their own product in perpetuity. Paramount, and we've even seen it from Warner Brothers with licensing things out to third parties, to AVOD, to FAST systems, even to places like Netflix. Paramount opens these things up. Like I turned on my LG television set the other night, and it was telling me, hey, we've got it on a free LG channel, Mission Impossible, right now. They still make, according to some reports I've seen, they're still pulling in somewhere around $10, $12 million a year on the first Mission Impossible movie just from licensing. And that doesn't include 2 through 7 right now. They see bounces because, and this is real cash money. This is real actual cash flows. These are sales and licensing to third parties, right? As opposed to, we're going to swipe the credit card from our own proprietary streaming service that is still $10 billion in the hole and pretend like it made money, right? This is like when Warner Brothers, or no, who was it? Not Warner Brothers said it. It was The Rock, when he said that Black Adam made money. I'm like, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. Because somewhere on a line item on a journal entry, they showed that Warner Brothers had journaled over $50 million or $100 million to the movie from HBO Max. It's like, no, you moved, it's like we always show people. I don't have my wallet here. This is what happens when you do this. When you dump it in perpetuity on your own streaming service, it's like, hey, okay, I've got $25 here. This is my streaming system, and this is the movie. Both of these things are owned by Disney or Warner Brothers or what have you. I just made $20. No, stupid. You still have the same $25.
Yeah, it's always brilliant. Yeah.
As opposed to if Netflix comes in, I've got $25 over here, and Netflix comes in with another $5. Now I've got $30. Now I've actually made money. This is the difference, and this is why a lot of these, companies out there have much better systems. Universal, I think Comcast has absolutely the best system, bar none. I do not know why more people do not copy the Universal streaming distribution system, because it's the most brilliant one out there, the hybrid model.
Is someone getting a text?
Yeah, who's getting a text?
That's probably in my ears. I don't think that was. Is that actually coming through?
That's Valiant's wife saying the cake is out here and the candles are on. Why are you still
Go
live streaming?
to the birthday.
No. It's my daughter texting me stuff from college. She's fine.
No
but
problem.
anyway, so I don't think Lilo is going to radically slow down until we actually hit the point where we get How to Train Your Dragon out in 2 weeks. I think this is probably still going to have a huge, decent set of legs. It's going to be better than a Marvel movie. I think it's going to be, probably go 3x, and we're looking at a $300 million flat 3-day opening weekend. I think 900 million is the floor on this thing as of right now.
Okay, we'll come back in 2 weeks. I'd like to have a discussion, even for an hour, to talk about the culture towards that film when we see what goes on with it.
It's impervious to that kind of conversation.
Why do you think? But see, that's
Lilo?
my whole point. But that's my point. You don't think that says something about our culture if they're willing to support a film, as Steph was describing, and as Ashton was describing?
No, Steph's absolutely right, but it has nothing to do with whether the movie's going to be successful or not.
Word of mouth will spread.
I'll throw one in. Robert, I'm going to agree with Robert vociferously, and I'm going to throw one right back at you, George. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I know a ton of dudes that went with their girlfriend to see Barbie just because their girlfriend wanted to go see Barbie.
Oh, that's because they wanted to get laid.
But
Okay, it's still added to the box office.
I know, but Lilo and
Still have
Stitch,
tickets sold.
And also, I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say this. For a movie about Barbie, Barbie was pretty great.
Okay, hold on. Barbie, the only reason it did well. And
Valiant, everybody, after we're done here, y'all going to go right over to Valiant's.
Oh, yeah, the show is set up, so you can set the redirect. All right, take care, guys.
Thank you,
Valiant. I will say one thing. This movie is getting a negative reception on TikTok. So
I've seen on TikTok, but I've also seen on X a little bit.
None of that has social media.
Facebook, too.
Like
Facebook, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Disney.
All my liberal friends hate this movie.
And I'm just gonna TikTok fueled the Minecraft movie.
It did.
So
because it is a huge factor in like how things.
It played a huge factor in the success of the Minecraft movie, 100%.
Absolutely.
I will say that Barbie only did well because of the marketing. So like I cried in the movie theater. Like I came on these shows and defended Barbie. Then I rewatched it a second time when I went to HBO or HBO Max or whatever. Max now, I guess.
No, they switched back. It's HBO.
I rewatched it and I was like, wait, this is all over the place. This movie does not make sense. This movie is really chaotic. And I kind of realized, because your girl's got a psychology degree, I kind of went back and did some research and realized how much Edward Bernays' teachings had to do with the Barbie movie being successful. It was all marketing. All the brand deals is what basically encouraged people to think it was a much better movie than it actually was. So brand deals actually make a huge factor in marketing for a movie.
Rob, what were you going to say?
Everything.
Well, first of all, Barbie's a brand that's been ingrained in American culture for over half a century.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows Barbie. Everyone. I'm a guy. I grew up with, when I was playing with my 12-inch G.I. Joes, we didn't have any civilian things to play with. So I would steal my sister's 4-story Barbie dream apartment.
So you played
so what I'm going to say, I couldn't, G.I. Joe didn't have a pink Corvette. You know, so I would borrow my sister's toys because we had no civilian work. We didn't have any civil. I had helicopters, but I could land a helicopter on top of the bar, and then we had the Barbie dream house. We had all kinds of stuff. So
wait,
anyway,
real quick. So you're saying you played with Barbies?
No, I'm saying I played with Barbie accessories.
Ah, okay.
Because
My brother did
G.I.
that.
Joe
Yeah.
had to live somewhere. He wasn't always part of the adventure team. He had to go home.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is that this is going to keep going, like Barbie.
No, so look, here's the thing. The Barbie movie was way better, regardless of what philosophy it was based on. You took the idea that a Barbie movie could be watchable at all was crazy. But then you had Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, who were two indie film voices that were given a franchise property to control. It's amazing the film was what it was, and it became a cultural touchstone moment. And it wasn't just marketing, it was an event. It was a zeitgeist thing that was fueled not just by social media, but it was fueled by the fact that it existed at all became a weird, bizarre, like, we got to go see this just because it exists. And that's something that you can't create that out of thin air. That's something. It's just like you can't create a cult movie like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right, of course not.
It has to happen. It has to happen naturally. But I wanted to say something earlier. You know, we were talking about merchandising, and the Star Wars franchise is a really great example of how merchandising can and can't work. Because when The Phantom Menace came out, the merchandising for that movie was a big deal. Going to Toys R Us, and then of course that merchandising all flopped.
Right.
Nobody wanted any of it. Because in order for people to buy toys, in order for people to buy model kits, a movie has to provide something iconic that lives beyond the film itself. So if you're going to buy something, a totem from that film, whether it's, I'll give you an example. Everyone knows what this is.
Yeah, Millennium Falcon. Yeah.
This is a hero. It's not alive, you know, when it's being piloted by Han Solo, sure, but everyone knows what this is. Everyone. Modern Star Wars, from The Phantom Menace on, has no new equivalent of this. There is no hero starship in Star Wars except the Millennium Falcon. That's it. So the prequel trilogy had no equivalent of this.
You don't think the Naboo
Zero.
Starfighter would be it?
No, they wanted it to be, but it wasn't cool because it was piloted by a
You don't
kid.
think pod racers are?
I hate the fucking pod racers.
Pod racers actually were the coolest things in that movie, and that's why the game was really great.
Yeah, but I didn't like the kid in it. Dude.
Well, they
made the pod racer little mini cars for kids to drive.
And they did. The pod racers were cool and the game was cool, but they didn't endure. And the thing is, the pod racers you can't like put one on your shelf. It's a little too cumbersome. And so like Ghost Sculptor says, yeah, you had Darth Maul, but you know what the problem with Darth Maul was? He lost.
Yeah.
Darth Maul
back.
He did not endure. And later they made him cooler in the Clone Wars or whatever. So now, you know, Hot Toys can repop their Darth Maul on a Sith speeder. But the reason people buy merchandise is because they love the character. And not only that, when they put a character that they love up on their desk at work or something,
Right.
other people know what that character is.
So your idea for Ryan Reynolds R-rated Star Wars to save it? Yeah,
it's not about the rating.
Right.
You can rate it whatever you want. It's about the characters in the story.
But what do you think
As
about
it
his idea?
always ever is. You have to have characters that people love. The reason that the Disney movies have always succeeded in terms of their animated classics, all the way back to Snow White, was those characters. People love those characters, whether it's Cinderella, whether it's to me, I still think the greatest Disney live action adaptation was Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella.
Oh yeah,
which was one of the first. You know, you had Lily James, the people they cast in that film, and you had a Shakespearean director directing that
Chris
film.
Hemsworth. Yeah.
And the costuming in that is just phenomenal. I mean,
Phenomenal.
the
Everything
dress
was
is
happening.
iconic. You don't see people cosplaying from the other live action Disney movies for a reason, except for Cinderella.
Do you know what's crazy? The costume designer for that movie was the same one on Snow White.
You're kidding me.
What?
Nope. Same costume designer On
Did
both
she
of
get
the
paid less?
same one.
Must have had different directions. I guess it gets the boss.
But I think that's what is being lost is that audiences know inherently whether a character is iconic or not. Audiences know. I talk about fraudulent creation.
Yeah.
You know, the reason Disney animated classics endured, and remember, it's different now, but they used to re-release Disney animated classics every couple of years. So every generation could grow up with them. They were literally timeless. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, we would go see, I got to see all those Disney animated films in the theater because we would just go see them. And it wasn't even as a boy, I didn't think to myself, well, I'm not going to go see Sleeping Beauty because it was about a girl. I went and saw those Disney animated classics because they provided a wonderful experience. Whether you were a boy or a girl or a father or a mother, those films delivered, and they delivered on an iconic call it a Jungian, Carl Jung, a Jungian level. Those films were, I mean, a lot of them were, of course, scrubbed from the original darkness of their source material, but they still delivered the goods, and they provided an entertainment because Disney he wasn't going after children.
Right.
He was going after families. He was going after
because
everyone.
he knew the market.
But that's why his live action movies, like Mary Poppins, like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, were two of the greatest live action fantasy films made at that point, and they worked for adults and kids equally. And that is a very difficult formula to master. And nowadays, with our agenda driven or people trying to put in political messaging in the films, it doesn't work, because then you're taking away from the timelessness of the characters. When looking at what's her face, Rachel Zegler, talk about, well, it's not the 1930s anymore. No, you missed the point. It was timeless. It wasn't about when it came out. These stories were stories that are retold again and again and again throughout human history. It's not about when they were made. And that's a mistake that creators, we have to make it up to date and make it for today's audience.
Yes, the problem with Rachel Zegler, and the reason she said that, like, it's not the 1930s, is because she's looking at it from the lens of a feminist, and from the lens of a feminist, women can no longer be in roles or be in gendered roles, and that's how she's viewing Snow White. Oh, she's just in this gendered role where she cleans and sweeps up and answers to men, and she's saved by a man. That's why she says it's no longer 1930s. Women can save themselves. Women can do, that's why she says that. That's why she views that story through that way, because she's viewing it from a feminist lens as opposed to a timeless story, a timeless fairy tale that can stand the test of time.
I didn't mean that Snow White takes place in the 30s. It came out in the 30s.
Yeah,
right. It is.
It was made in the 1930s.
Yeah, it was
I
a
will
200-year-old
say that
character.
as much as I don't like Rachel Zegler's comments, a part of me wonders if Disney sort of instructed her to maybe say something along the lines of that, because Disney does give PR training. They tell their actors what to say on red carpets. And the thing is, Disney, of all their princesses, who sells the least merch? Snow White. Snow White does the least merch in all of the princesses, because if you ask a lot of people in my generation, their least favorite Disney princess tends to be Snow White. Now, Snow White was actually my favorite. Snow White was actually my favorite princess. I like Snow White.
Wait a minute. Not to interrupt you. Wait, you're saying your generation's favorite is not Snow White?
Yeah. So if you look at my generation, they like Ariel and Belle and Jasmine, because those were the ones that we grew up with. Those were like the 80s and 90s. And so I liked Snow White and Aurora. Those were my two favorites, but that was very, very rare. And so I think Disney was actually already trying to make something different with Snow White as a way to sell more Snow White merchandise. Same reason I think they were really big about turning Splash Mountain into Tiana's Bayou, because I knew they were actually planning on changing Splash Mountain like about 10 years ago or something like that when the controversy came out. But I think Tiana was a huge factor because they weren't selling enough Tiana merch. And that was a huge thing. So I think the reason they thought, if we make Snow White more of a strong girl type character, then people will see her at the same level as Jasmine, Ariel, and Belle. We can appeal to these younger generations with her. So I think that was actually their original plan the whole time. And it backfired because people are kind of sick of that story. It was a big thing in the 2010s, and now it just kind of played out. We don't need a strong girl, like feminine character for every movie. We don't need a girl boss. And if you're gonna do a girl boss, at least do it right. Give me a Ripley, okay?
Yeah, Ripley, hell yeah.
Ripley is the best girl boss type character you can think of, because it's not about her being a woman, it's about her being a fighter.
Warrior,
and that's where
yeah.
a lot of like these girl boss, these feminist type characters, I think, fail, is it's so focused on them being a woman and not just a fighter. And again, we don't need a girl boss for every single character. We don't need a woman who can save herself for every single. We just don't. And I think the strongest characteristics about Snow White were that she was sweet and optimistic and kind, and those were the characteristics I felt
and
like.
in love.
And in love. Not just that she was just in love, but because any of the princesses technically fell in love, but I feel like a lot of the other princesses have their own trait, whether they're adventurous or had curiosity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Snow White was the only one that really was empowered by her optimism. I mean, this girl is being chased through the forest by the one family member that's still alive, her stepmom, technically not family, but still the closest thing to family, trying to have her killed. She's running through this forest that's basically attacking her in the dark. And because she's optimistic, she's able to, find her way to the dwarf's house, figure things out. She's like, oh, it's such a mess. Let me clean it up so it's more livable for me to live in here now. And it's just her optimism is what gets through these really hard times. I mean, they don't have stories like that anymore, where when everything is at its worst, it's okay to just sing a little song to get you through the day. I mean, this was a movie that got a lot of people through World War II. Because it was just about optimism and looking towards a brighter future.
I think you nailed it, because you need hope in life.
You need hope. And
absolutely. Hope is to me, hope has always been the anchor point of the soul. It's like, it's what gets you through dark days, bad days, and helps make good days brighter. I mean, it's the same way that, go ahead.
Yeah, current Hollywood, you're not allowed to show women having any type of emotion, which is why Rachel Zegler shows none. In Snow White, in the live action movie. She's just incredibly tall, stoic, doesn't cry, doesn't do anything. She shows no emotion. Women can't show emotion, but what's funny is that as women, we relate on to these characters on an emotional level because biologically we are very emotional. We are incredibly empathetic, and that's why we love these Disney princesses, because they do show that type of emotion that women show. And right now we're telling or feminists are being told, oh, women can't show emotion, because if they show emotion, oh, they're being called names or whatever. So let's take away that and impart on them male characteristics that as women we can't relate to, because we are not men. And they're putting those on these Disney princesses. And we saw it with Jasmine, we saw it with Belle, we saw it with Snow White, we saw it with with what's her name, Ariel. And at this point, at Snow White's, when it was Snow White's turn, we were just like, no, these aren't the Disney princesses that we grew up loving. They were already perfect. Who cares if they were saved by men? Who cares if they, were emotional? They're women. We loved these characters, and you're changing them, and they are no longer women that you can look up to, because they're not realistic. No woman is that perfect. No woman has zero emotions, so they're unrealistic. And as much as they want to say that, oh, these characters are so unrealistic standards are put on, no, the ones that they are creating are unrealistic, because nobody is as perfect as these characters. It's why Rey failed as a Star Wars hero, because she was just too perfect. Everybody just liked her. Things just happened and she was perfect. She never went through any struggles, and nobody can relate to that.
You're right. Let's bring in Tom real quick, because he's just joining us.
Oh,
Tom, how you doing? Tom, you there?
Hello.
Hey, how you doing? Just as I was about to show this new clip, that was a commercial they released. I hadn't seen it in a while. For Fantastic Four. See what everybody thinks.
Now, time to follow along with the Fantastic Four. Sue, Reed, Johnny, and Ben. Okay. As they race to watch the ESPN playoff broadcast of the National Basketball Association. Will the Fantastic Four make it to the Baxter Building in time for tip-off? Will family dinner get told? Keep watching the
So this being the NBA.
Say it again. What was it? I didn't hear.
No, I think that was somebody talking on the commercial.
Oh,
itself.
it was like, damn. Okay, yeah. I don't know.
I like the suits actually. A lot of people don't like the suits, but I like them.
I do too.
I don't mind them. Yeah.
Yeah, I
like
have no
the
problem
trailer.
with it. You like it?
I like the 1960s mod vibe.
Oh,
on it.
yeah,
I'm
I
really
like
glad
that.
They're going back to that.
I like that. I don't like what the actors have put out in Entertainment Weekly. Again, another reason why I think it just highlights how Cruise knows what he's doing when these actors come out 3.5 weeks ago and you had whoever's playing Sue Storm's like, she's not going to be the typical Sue Storm, you know. She's not going to be this, you know, icon of motherhood. She's going to be about gender identity and gender politics and female
But
agency.
Sue Storm was already a very strong female
She was.
character.
I know,
So
but
I
that's
don't.
the thing. That she
And
was.
so we'll have to
She was
change
a
her up
mother, but
and
she
put
was a
male
mother and a-
characteristics on her.
Right. She was a mother and a wife. Vanessa Kirby. Right. She was a mother and a wife. It's the same way you have her brother, the guy who's playing Johnny Storm, you know, Human Torch, and he's like, he's not going to be a womanizer anymore. I'm like, why?
That was the point. What's the
Right.
point? I love Johnny Storm as a douchebag. It's what makes him funny.
He's supposed to be a womanizer. You're supposed to have fun. A young 20-year-old going out.
If a hot rod was a superpower, like a superhero.
There you go.
That's the
Exactly.
point. That's why he's Johnny Flame. That's the joke, is that he's a hot rod, a superhero hot rod type dude.
Yeah. And now they have the female Silver Surfer. They're giving a Norman Rad story. I really don't think Fantastic Four is going to perform as well as Disney thinks it is, because I've talked to 30 people over the last 6 weeks. Out of the 3 people who knew comics, they knew the Fantastic Four. Everybody else, the normies, like, what? Who? And then I remind him, don't you remember the movie from the 2000s? Like, oh, yeah, kind of, maybe. So I don't think they have the name recognition.
You know, what's interesting, I think my 2 favorite runs of Fantastic Four was Byrne's 80s run and Hickman's recent run on the comics.
But what
And
films?
of course, Kirby originally created the thing that these trailers, all the trailers have been missing, is a sense of cosmic wonder.
Right.
That these great comic creators brought, the sense of limitless technology, gigantic images, even Galactus, you know, they've shown his foot. They show his foot going through that's about, there's no sense of wonder in these Fantastic Four trailers. I love the 60s mod vibe. I love that they're giving us this sort of Silver Age, the same way Superman
I
is.
like that they're not modernizing it.
Yeah, they're this.
I agree with that.
classical-
I agree.
They're giving us that World of Tomorrow, the Disneyland Tomorrowland vibe, and all that. But what they have not given us is there's nothing in those trailers that make you. It's like we're already supposed to love these characters.
Right.
And
we don't know.
aside from Ben Grimm tasting the sauce that Herbie's making, I'm like, show me something that makes me want to go see this movie, because I can't wait to see how these characters interact in that. Look, the new Jurassic Park trailer, I thought Jurassic Park was played out. I'm like,
agree.
how many? But I sat in front of Mission Impossible and they showed a new Jurassic Park trailer. They're leaning into the horror elements of
Yeah.
it now. And I'm like,
Looks
this
good.
movie looks dope, man. I mean, finally, because everyone knows there's 2 things kids find irresistible: dinosaurs eating people and intelligent apes on horseback with rifles.
Did you like the last one? It was crap. It was horrible.
It was not good.
Written.
It was not good.
Shit.
This movie
But
is
it made
leaning
money.
leaning into the horror. And I'm there for it. And they've got that great scene that was in the original Jurassic Park novel that they
The
didn't
raft
have the
scene?
technology to make. No, the scene in the water with the boat with the things that was from
Oh yeah. That was in the novel.
because
The
they
raft scene was
couldn't
also
do
in the
water
novel.
in CG in 93. The technology didn't exist to do water that convincingly. So now they have those things and they can do that scene. I can't wait. I mean, I'm watching this going, I thought Jurassic Park bored.
Well, we found a survivor from Jurassic Park. Verbal had sent it to me.
What?
Oh my gosh.
What?
Yes. There's some things that shouldn't be done in this world. Did you all see? It was crazy. Yes, see, Steph? I had the same reaction. I was like,
She's in a pressurized environment. I'd
I
fear for her
know.
life.
but at least you know if it, God forbid, ended up in the ocean, you got flotation devices. No. It was just horrible. I have not liked any of the Jurassic Park films except for the first 3. I just didn't like any of the.
I'm with you.
I just think they're crap, and I
The
couldn't
Chris
believe.
Pratt ones just got worse and worse.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how well this new one is going to do because you don't have any of the original cast in it. You don't have Chris Pratt or anybody from the Jurassic World movies in it. But Robert's not wrong. As I always say, too, kids love dinosaurs and monsters. And they have a big section at Walmart for Jurassic Park toys for a reason still.
But how do they make money, Tom? Because I saw the last. I was talking to Drinker the other day when I went on Open Bar, and we were talking about what is going to succeed this summer.
Maybe-
Superman, Fantastic Four. He's like Jurassic Park.
I mean,
I don't
how
know.
did the Transformers movie make money? They do.
The
They're
last one
successful, so they keep
Well,
making
the
money.
last few
I feel
haven't, but
like-
yeah, it's more in the merchandising side of things,
I
and that's the
feel
same
like-
thing with Jurassic Park.
I
Yeah.
feel like these new movies are almost what's happening is they're almost like commercials for the old movies. So they almost encourage people to buy merchandise that is still related. Like, but like what? Gosh, well, we were just talking about how Star Wars Lego sets still sell really well.
Yeah,
the
they do.
original Star Wars, and it's almost as if Disney is making these terribly done movies, as if it's like, hey, remember the ones you actually love? Go buy merchandise for those ones instead. Like it's maybe that's like what's going on here. Like, oh, the old Transform movies everyone loved, so the new ones suck. You can still buy merchandise for the new ones or the old ones. So maybe that's like what's going on. I don't know.
guess.
I
It's,
still
yeah,
buy
you-
That is
tons
part of
more
it,
merch.
especially with franchises like Ninja Turtles and some other
Mm-hmm.
ones where that's pretty much all they sell is classic toys.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, kids love dinosaurs. You can never go wrong.
No, you weren't here earlier, Tom, but I had played a clip from a podcast that Ryan Reynolds on. He was saying the solution. He had a solution which he had pitched to Disney for an R-rated Star Wars movie. And then he brought up afterwards, the host brought up a version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, an R-rated one like the comic originally was.
That could work, but Star Wars should never be R-rated.
I agree.
It's kind of like, that fine line with DC. Are there DC characters who can be R-rated? Yes.
Mhm.
Should you ever make an R-rated Batman movie? I don't think so.
No.
Okay. Good point. Good point.
It's like you should never make an R-rated Snow White film.
Exactly. And I mean, unless you're going straight out balls to the wall horror like that one with
Like
Sigourney
Cringe
Weaver from
Tales.
years ago or whatever. Yeah, but like in that case, they knew what they were selling. They weren't selling some, But even in that case, like who cares about that, right? In hindsight, like the only reason we're bringing it up is because
Right.
Snow White. Yeah.
So what do y'all think of the news that came out a week ago that Batman 2's script is supposed to be turned in by tomorrow? And it's going to be coming out a year
I laughed
later.
at it like I've been hearing about for the last year that script isn't done yet.
I can't believe it's
Robert
not done yet.
Pattinson's going to be like old Batman.
Well, they did. I mean, they did make Penguin,
I
which
don't
was
like
like
Robert
having
Pattinson's
4
Batman.
feature film
I
scripts.
really don't. I don't know why they're still making movies with him as Batman. Maybe it's because he's like a heartthrob or whatever. But like the dude's too moody as Batman.
I don't think they're going to necessarily happen. They might, but like I was hearing from the start, because the problem was this. The last Batman movie didn't make $1 billion. It made enough money that they saw that, okay, people will accept anybody else besides Ben Affleck as Batman, but it didn't make $1 billion when the Joker did.
Mhm.
So that's the problem. So David Zaslav said you got to make it shorter and you got to make it better, like
Okay.
not so dark and dour.
But he already
You
said
need to be
he-
able to sell toys on top of it
Oh.
all. Yeah.
My
Got it.
biggest thing with the Batman franchise is that if we're gonna get Batman, can we at least get a Batman who understands martial arts? Because Batman's supposed to be a skilled martial artist, and almost every Batman that's on screen is so stiff and so just like blocky, it doesn't make any sense. Batman is a martial artist. He's not just some rich guy. He's a
But
trained martial artist.
I agree with
That
you there,
was,
but
Ben
how many
Affleck Batman
Batmans-
was really great.
I loved him.
Showing off his skills. Yes.
Hell yeah.
I
That
don't
warehouse
mind.
scene was
I don't
amazing.
mind Robert Pattinson's Batman. I didn't
Yeah.
necessarily like his portrayal of Bruce Wayne. I think that needs
Agreed.
improvement. But given that he is a young Batman, I'm willing to forgive that. Now, if he's
Custom
playing
slack.
the same type of Bruce Wayne if the second one ever gets made, if he doesn't improve on that, then then I'll lob him some criticisms his way. But I didn't mind it. I don't mind a brooding, moody Batman because Batman is that way.
I didn't care for it. But
No.
here's the other problem I had with it, with him being a young Batman. I think he's technically older than what Christian Bale was when he played him. Like, that's a problem.
But the story is still
Yeah.
Yeah, too. Well, here's the thing:
I
is
didn't
how many
care for the story
Batmans?
either.
The thing is how many Batmans can they have now that Gunn is
That's the
Charlotte.
other thing I was going to
Yeah.
get to is like, look, you have this thing has been going on for so long and been prolonged so long. To finish off what I was saying before, I was hearing that a lot of whether or not they were even going to do the Batman 2 was going to be predicated on if the Penguin was a success or not. Now it was successful. Notice that's when they started talking about the Batman 2 again. But notice Matt Reeves doesn't have a script done after all these years.
Yeah,
and everybody's going, where's the script? Where's the script? And I've been thinking like maybe they're just gonna the formality is they have to turn the script in so they can turn it down. Because chances are Gunn is not going to make this movie. You're right. Why in the world would you have two competing Batman in theaters at the same time? Because the longer and longer and longer and longer this takes to get to theaters, the closer it gets to Batman Brave and the Bold.
Right.
Because if that happens, that's going to be right around the corner. So like I don't see them having two Batman movies within a year apart.
No, I couldn't. That's why I brought it up. It's like they'd be competing against each other. And I think Gunn wanted a clean slate. Well, there is one thing that's getting a clean slate, which gives me some hope for the future. Amazon just canceled Wheel of Time. Y'all heard about that?
Yep.
So I'm hopeful that means that Rings or Panda Rings of Power will get canceled after season 3.
Wheel of Time was more faithful to the source material.
I know. That's what my point is. It was a little bit more
Even
faithful.
still, I see where George is coming from. Did you see that story that came out recently about how Amazon might be trying to win the men back after now that they got rid of Sulky? So yeah, I wouldn't be. Yeah.
Well, Amazon's slate at CinemaCon was baller. I can't wait to see those films. I mean, my most awaited movie of next year is Project Hail Mary.
Yes, you told me. I got the book, by the way. Thank you, Robert.
After what they showed at CinemaCon, I cannot wait. I read that book in one sitting.
But you can't tell me G20 was good. G20.
G20?
Yeah, they released a month and a half ago. G20. The Die Hard with the female president.
Oh, yeah, G20.
Yeah.
That. No.
55-year-old
part of their
taking on
slate
like
at CinemaCon.
heels, you know? She's like, let me kick your ass with my high heels. And I'm like,
she put tennies on. Remember, she changed her shoes.
No,
Well, and they just brought over, like Highlander, for instance. They've got He-Man on the slate.
And He-Man
Despite
looks
how bad that
amazing.
looks. I hope it looks better than the pictures, man, because
Oh,
But aren't they
amazing?
Hold on, somebody. Oh, okay, Steph. I didn't know. Yeah, you have to go. That's right. One more. You want to outro now, or you want to wait another second? It's up to you.
We can finish up. It's totally fine.
Okay, cool. What I wanted to say was, so Wheel of Time getting canceled because they used the same press releases. How they said this was the greatest series, and the first season was the biggest premiere that they ever had. It's the same language they used for Rings of Power in season 1. But when you go and look at Wheel of Time's ratings, it used to chart in its first and second season. It would break the top 10 in Nielsen's. Rings of Power had it for a week and then never charted again. Not on Samba, not on analytics, nothing. So that they're holding on to it and they're moving with season 3, even though they said they're jumping forward 20 years or 15 years into the war, the start of the war of Sauron. So I predicted that it would be canceled after season 3. This, to me, gives me a little more hope that they're not going to keep screwing Tolkien over. And that 3 will be the end. What do you think, Robert? You think they're cleaning house since Sulky was booted?
Here's the thing. The problem with Rings of Power is it's a different thing. They paid $450 million for the rights alone.
I know. Right.
And I think they're obligated. I believe it's 5 years. They have to make 5 years of shows.
But they can buy it out. I heard that.
They could. I mean, they could. It just depends what's cheaper at this point. I mean, in for
penny, in for pound, but they have no audience. Remember, season 1 ended where 37% of the audience was all that was left that had watched the premiere.
Season
2 lost half of that again.
Yeah, that I think Rings of Power stands as a testament to one of the worst examples of how modern politics infected entertainment, to the point of that shows Professor Tolkien would be rolling in his grave if he saw that show. That show is an affront to everything he ever wrote.
Absolutely.
And I don't want it to be that way.
No, neither do I. All right, Steph, thank you for joining us. I hope you come back. Tell everybody where they can find you and what you have coming up. And a happy Memorial Day to you for tomorrow.
Happy Memorial Day. Yes, happy Memorial Day, and thank you everyone for your service. Definitely will reflect tomorrow. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and X, all at My Nerdy Home. I have Talk Nerdy later on this evening. It starts at 8:30 Eastern, and in about half an hour, I have Gaming with Disbrew. We're playing It Takes Two. It's always a fun
Sweet.
time over there. So,
Well, go check it out, everybody. Thank you, Steph. I can't wait to have you back.
of course, yeah. I'll see you guys later.
All righty. And then there was something I want to share because the media is always constantly sharing negative news about Trump. That's just their thing. So you always have to find the real stories. Like we had last week, we shared the story of the black lady in New York when she was in her 20s. I had played the video that she was in Brooklyn and she was trying to self-delete herself. And all of a sudden she sees this guy walk up to her and it was Trump. And he's like, "What's going on with you?" And he talked to her. She said he saved her life. She's now 55, and he handed her some money and spent half the night with her. Well, here you have, I don't know if you know Dilbert creator Scott Adams. He got diagnosed right after Biden, and he has prostate cancer, and he says it has spread to his bones. It's very sad. And he had this message.
So yesterday, I'm home, and I've been getting lots of people reaching out because of my recent health-related news, and but I can't talk to everybody. Like it's just continual messages coming in, and I have to kind of pace myself. So I see a phone number coming in. Somebody's calling me from some number I don't recognize, something in Florida, and I sent it to voicemail. And a little bit later, I thought, I better check that voicemail and see if that was anything I need to deal with. And the first sentence in the transcription, because the phone gives you the text version of the voicemail as well. The first sentence is, "This is your favorite president." And I thought to myself, no. Did I just send the most important person in the world to voicemail? And it turns out that I had. It was Trump, and he was just calling to check in. Now he left a semi-lengthy little voicemail, just saying he was checking on me, heard about my health situation, and then he says, you can call me back on this number. Now, obviously, I don't call him back, right? Because that would just be ridiculous. It just was a nice thing for him to say. Because he called me. You could call me back on this number. So I didn't call him back on that number because I thought it's not like he's sitting at the Resolute desk waiting for my call. I thought that whatever it is he's doing has got to be more important, than randomly taking a call from me. So I don't call him back. Hours go by. It's the afternoon, same day. It's the afternoon. And all of a sudden another call comes through, also from Florida. And I thought to myself, no fucking way. There's no way he's calling me again. And I answer it, and it's Trump. And apparently he'd heard of my situation, and he had lots of questions. I won't get into the details of our conversation because that would be inappropriate. But he was just checking on me. And he had, he wanted to make sure that I was getting everything I needed. And that was it. But at the end, the strangest thing happened at the end. At the end of the call, when he found out, the situation was kind of dire, and I was still checking out some things that might help. He said, "If you need anything, I'll make it happen." And he meant it. He was completely aware of our, let's say, parallel journeys from 2015. He mentioned it. And it was just the most incredible, weird, hard to understand situation. But boy, was it fun. So anyway, that's my story.
Yeah, I think it's the media won't show stuff like this, and I think it's important because they paint such a one-sided portrayal of him. And I had pulled back up that clip, which is 50 seconds, of the lady saying how she was saved by him. And I think it's important that everybody has the facts.
Literally, my dad and my mom passed at the same time. I was in a bad place. I was going towards the Brooklyn Bridge. Don't ask me why, but I was. Donald Trump was standing on 97th Street in Broadway. He was at a friend's birthday party. And when he saw me coming past, I was hysterical in tears. And he gently grabbed my arm. He was like, whoa, wait a minute, are you okay? And he said, well, I don't know what you're gonna do right now, but whatever it is, forget about it. Take it out of your head. Your mom and dad wouldn't want that. And he talked to me till I forgot all about what I was gonna do. So he said, let me pray for you. So when I went to get my keys out of my pocket and I opened my hand, he had placed a folded up, real small, folded up $100 bill in my hand. I framed it literally, and this is a true story. He saved my life. Yeah, he did. So anybody that has anything bad to say about Trump, did it, because he's a good man.
I think these are important stories. And I've been doing research. I have found hundreds of them over the years. Not reported by anybody because he didn't go out and say, like, let me put out a press release. Like you see from Meghan Markle, for example. They go out during the California wildfires and they're pumping out press releases. Look what we did to help save everyone. You know, it's crap like that. And then we had, I saw your post the other day, Robert. Guy Christensen. What a piece of shit.
Oh, you know what? I could say a lot. He dug his own grave. You know,
that guy's a piece of shit.
He's 3 million followers on TikTok. And
Guy, I'm going to play it for a second so everybody can see what vile evil looks like.
Well, remember, before you play it,
know
that there's a lot of people out there that don't think he's evil and that are definitely on his side. And I think one of the things that's important to remember about our civilization is that it's nuanced, and it is like Donald Trump individually, you know, is he a great statesman? Maybe that could be debatable, but everybody, I think we forget, we want to put everybody onto teams, and people are nuanced, and people are multi-layered, and people don't necessarily believe just this. And I just wish that our civilization would understand that, you know, people are not, we're complex and we're unique and we're weird and we're crazy. And I just can't stand this idea that we want to put everybody in boxes. I understand that's human nature, but look, on my own YouTube channel, I always say everybody has a story to tell. You just have to listen.
And you have to dig.
So this kid, I think he's a piece of shit. If he came down my street, I'd take him out.
Yeah,
I mean, not permanently, but I would have a severe talking to with him. But that's not to say that he does bring up points, I'm loath to admit it, that are worth considering.
Yeah,
but he is calling for the murder of people on American soil.
Yeah, he just directly.
For that I do not forgive.
Yeah,
Who is this person?
I'm about to play. His name is Guy Christensen.
3 million followers on TikTok.
Guy Christensen. And I don't know what the hell happened to the video. Hold on. It's TikTok. I don't know, TikTok, Twitter. There's something going on these last few days. Everything.
Fletcher should have these clips prepared. He's fired.
I have no coherent worldview. Contra mortem, you know what? The world's a really interesting place to live in. I don't know what you think a coherent worldview is, but I bet it's one-sided. Just saying.
Hold on. While I get that, I'm going to play something else. And then as we start wrapping up, I want to show you, this is something we talked about right at the beginning about how Tom Cruise is the last movie star. While I look for that clip, this is from the movie, but it's showing you behind the scenes. How about this stunt, which was amazing?
With low-level flying, there is absolutely zero margin for error at altitudes between 5 and 20 feet above the water, above the rocks. If there is a downdraft, there is no room for correction. The plane is going in.
Isn't that just brilliant? I mean, he reminds me of Buster Keaton. Do you know any other actor today who does that? Any?
It could
who
never
does
get
it?
insured.
No, but how the hell does he do it?
I think because he's willing to compensate. He's willing to somehow make a deal with the insurance companies that will, I don't know.
But do you think any of them would have the balls to do it? I'll put it that way.
No.
Okay. And then you had this, which I thought was hilarious. You heard about Starbucks and how they're suing the employees are on strike in some states. I thought it was
Why
great.
are they on strike?
Because now brace yourself, Ashton. Starbucks decided to implement a uniform policy where they want them to wear either a black shirt or a blue shirt.
That's always been the Starbucks policy. Because I worked at Starbucks, I think, back in
Right.
like college. Even then, we had to wear very specific types of clothes.
Yep. But they removed it supposedly 6 months ago and said, we want everybody to express themselves and whatever you want to wear. And their profits went down and discipline went out the window. And so they're like, we're instituting a policy. Well, now you have Starbucks employees in different states are boycotting either outside or they're going inside while people are eating.
Starbucks has not bargained with our union over these dress code changes. Therefore, we do not accept this dress code. Workers United has also sent a letter to Starbucks demanding that the new dress code not be implemented at union-represented stores until bargaining concludes. Starbucks is legally required to bargain with workers at union stores over changes to their working conditions. Unilateral changes are not legal. If the new dress code is implemented at our store, or if workers are disciplined for wearing face masks, we will be forced to take escalating action. Thank you, the union partners at 36 in May.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How come all the liberal leftists always talk like that? No matter what their ethnic background is, they're always like that.
Oh, I don't know. Here's a lefty crank. This was funny. Verbal and I were talking about this the other day. This is hilarious. Can you see it? Yeah, there you go.
Why the f doesn't he get a ticket?
I can help you talk to somebody.
He didn't use his turn signal.
Man, can I please call you an
This is like
ambulance?
Karen on steroids.
Yeah. She drives up to a cop and won't stop screaming at him. It's like, can I get you an ambulance? Can I help you out? Mental case?
Oh, because the guy in front of her didn't use a turn
So
signal?
I have to follow every law, but that can leave the f***ing scene without a turn signal? Give him a ticket!
Do you need an ambulance?
He doesn't have a turn signal! Give him a ticket!
You need to go to the.
No, I get a ticket! He can do whatever he wants!
Okay.
Give him a ticket!
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Robert, you stepped out. Did you catch that?
I saw this earlier.
It's nuts. Come on. That's like demon possession is real.
Imagine wanting the cops to do extra work. Like, that's the new level of liberal. Either you're a liberal who hates the cops and wants them to do nothing, or you're a liberal who says, how dare you not, like, this is what hall monitors grew up to be.
Yeah, it's insane. Let's read Let's read these super chats and then have one more clip and then we'll get going. It's the Phobos, my brother from another mother. Remember for 7 months. It's the USU girl boss. You can have it all message. Yeah. They keep doing it. They're not learning, but now they're doing the anti-family message in the Lilo and Stitch. That bothers me. Mark of Reality member for 8 months. Not a lot of Star Wars sequel merch was sold. No. You can still find, I think, at Walmart and Target some of the Rey figures. And they almost cost nothing. Thank you, Mark of Reality. Alpha and Omega for $5. If Star Wars was going to be rated R, best bet would be a war movie. Ooh, I like that. You could make a great Band of Brothers series or Warfare style film out of Star Wars. What do you think of that, Rob? That's a good idea.
That's actually a good idea. I think Andor was pretty close to that. It just was about the resistance, the French resistance, as opposed to a Band of Brothers Star Wars series could be very, very cool.
I would love that. I did like the way they took out, the Gormans and they set them up to annihilate themselves. I mean, the way they handled that.
No, it was Brilliant. I mean, episode
Brilliant.
8 of Andor was an amazing piece of television, but it was also, I mean, it was very sophisticated.
Yeah.
I think the difference between, it's interesting. Andor is an interesting, you have to ask yourself, a storytelling universe can be used to tell all different kinds of stories. And we've certainly seen that in the comics. Like in the 80s, you could get Batman and the Outsiders, which was kind of goofy. But then you could also get Frank Miller doing The Dark Knight Returns and Batman Year One. They're Batman stories, but one's on one side of the spectrum and the others are on the other side of the spectrum. But there's still examinations into what Batman is. And I think that's true of a lot of great IPs. But when you're spending lots of money, it becomes a little bit more difficult to explore different genres of storytelling within an IP. So you always have to be mindful of who is the audience for all of this. And ultimately, what Tom said, I think Star Wars is inherently like the Disney princesses and Disney movies. They're for families. They're for multi-generations of families to enjoy together.
Yes.
Ultimately. And I think that that's something that should never be forgotten. And while I would love to see an R-rated Star Wars show, I don't know if that would best serve the IP.
Even a Band of Brothers style.
Well, but then could you watch that with kids? I mean, Andor, I don't think you could. And I'm not saying it, I don't want to limit anyone.
It's a little easier to get away with it in a TV show than it is with a movie, though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
A good example of that, Robert, is I don't know if you've watched the MonsterVerse show that's on Apple Plus. The Godzilla
Monarch, the Monarch show?
Yeah, the Monarch show.
I loved it.
Okay, so yeah, like that's a good example of how like the movies, they learned pretty quick that they can't be making serious Godzilla Kong movies. The kids come to see the wrestling match. They want they want to see him fight. They want to go buy the toys afterwards. But Monarch, what Monarch is more for the adults, right? Basically, you kind of get the ins and outs of how Monarch works. I wouldn't imagine a kid would be even remotely interested in Monarch, right? Like, so like to me, you can do those sorts of things, but you have to do it kind of on the side. And Andor's a good example of that.
I
can
totally,
see how that works.
agree with you. Yes.
We
I
lost
agree with
Mikey.
Oh, yeah, Mikey had to go. All right, well, then this is the last thing I'm going to show. I don't know how many people saw this clip, and then we're out of here. Oh, no, we got to finish these up. Philip A. Demick for $2. Are you interested in Disney suing YouTube? Are you talking about because YouTube hired that former Disney employee? It's going to be an interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
I want to know, Justin Connolly was his name. That's going to be, I'm going to follow that and I'll keep you updated on it. Thank you for that. Eric K for $5. The Batman was horrible, unwatchable. Poop. Norrin Rad is a Silver Surfer and the Silver Surfer is Norrin Rad. I agree with you, just like Morales. You're doing the whole Morales debate with Peter Parker. I like it. Eric K for $5. Man of War 665, Neighbor of the Beast. Watched Wheel of Time and enjoyed it. No shit. No, you're fucking with him. Man of War 665, Neighbor of the Beast, member for 16 months. They should have made them wear brown shirts, like coffee. Wow. If you see the clips, I'm going to have to do that Wednesday. The clips that are going around of all these Starbucks employees, they're now holding fashion shows like a runway outside of Starbucks all over the country. And the crap they're wearing, it's like, wow, blow your mind. Dragon Master for $10. The left hates Trump with a passion, but at the same time won't leave him alone. He lives inside their minds rent-free. Oh, how the irony sticks out like a sore thumb. And let me tell you, when he had President Ramaphosa from South Africa this week, and the president was trying to deny that there's such a thing as white genocide, Trump was like, okay, no, let's turn down the lights and watch the video. The media went ape shit. And I'll show you that clip in a second. Breezy's Comics and Collectibles, member for 5 months. You're not smart enough to understand Andor. LOL. I've heard some people say that. I enjoyed Andor. The only thing I didn't like was the first 3 episodes of season 2 because it felt like a Lifetime movie. Too much of the wedding. But I loved Andor. Outside of that, I just didn't enjoy that. Play the High Note, $5 Australian. Andor fans have replaced Rick and Morty fans as the most pretentious fans going to the. Yeah, I can kind of see that. Thank you for that High Note. Now, here's the clip that once again shows that the mainstream media has a mind of its own, or not.
to the dramatic scene in the Oval Office today.
Oh, I've seen
the
it.
tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Up next, another Oval Office meltdown. President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush today.
Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader.
Zelensky territory, where essentially he was a bit ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Felt like an ambush in there, kind of like the President Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office.
This was an ambush. It was orchestrated.
Cyril Ramaphosa brought his best diplomatic self to this meeting, but nothing could have prepared him for this multimedia ambush. What started?
Do they not hear themselves?
It's like when every theme park attraction has an adventure in it. They can't think of another word. They can't think of another word for that ambush. They need a thesaurus.
Rob, that's got to bother you. It's like a script goes around.
No, it's very disconcerting. But the real question is, why the word ambush? You know, and the connotations goes back all the way to, in America, an ambush, you know, you're talking about Japan,
right?
You know, World War II, the connotations of that particular word, and to see that it was disseminated across all of these different networks, it's very disconcerting. But it's also a reminder of the kind of world we live in now, and it's only going to get worse. And that's why I always encourage people, you must be seekers. You have to find out. You can't take things at face value anymore. You must dig deeper. We have this incredibly newfangled thing called the interwebs. And, a few keystrokes, you can do a lot of research. And don't just take anything you read at face value, because there's always an opposing idea. And somewhere in between, you can find the truth. And I think that everybody, more so than ever, I don't know if you guys saw Google's new update to their AI program.
No, I haven't seen
it. It is astonishing. They can now do voices.
Oh, you're talking about ChatGPT's update?
No. Google's, it's VRO. Is it VRO?
Okay.
VER.
Okay. I have to check it out.
It's astonishing. And you're watching these things, the prompts, the technology is staggering. It is made, it's just, I can't even, where are we going to be in a year or two?
VEO3, that's what War Monkey said.
VEO3, it is unreal.
I'm going to check it out.
Go to like Twitter, there's people that are saying, here's 10 examples of what they've done. It's only been out for 3 or 4 days. And the things that they're creating are absolutely astonishing. And I don't even know, actually, to be honest, I've been sort of in an existential crisis, wondering what am I going to do with the rest of my life?
I think you'll still be able to make movies and do what you've been doing.
We don't even have to be on YouTube anymore. We can have them just this shot that I'm sitting in right now, easily AI can easily generate it. I'll just be like, I'd like to talk about this today. Hit a button and they'll broadcast it for this. By the way, there's dialogue here that it's generating.
Right. I know, but I still think that at least for now, for the next few
none
years,
of these people that you're
that
seeing in these shots are
but
real.
I think
None
we
of
can
them.
tell in our gut, in our lizard brain. I think there's a difference.
I don't know, man. I used to
maybe
think
in the
that was
future it
case.
won't be, but I still think we will. All right. I want to thank everybody for coming. All of you. Love you. It's going to be a wonderful Memorial Day weekend where we're going to honor all the fallen, mourn them, be there for their families, and to be there for everybody who keeps fighting for us. Thank you for all your support. Please thank Lord Thoth. Eric K. Fletcher Williams is in the back now. Robert Meyer Burnett, my good friend. I am...
Thanks for having me on again. It was
I
great.
love having you.
We haven't
This is
streamed
great.
together. It was great to stream with everybody. So
Absolutely. Thank you. Please tell everybody where they can find you.
you can find me on my YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and also my audio drama that I recently finished directing and producing and editing. True Noir is available at truenoir.co. It stars people like Michael Rosenbaum and Katie Sackhoff and Bill Sadler and Barry Bostwick and Anthony LaPaglia and, of course, David Strathairn. So check it out.
Beautiful. Mexican Iron Man had to go. Ashton, thank you for showing up. We got to have you back. Please tell everybody where they can find you and what you got coming up.
You can find me on X as the Ashton Blaise, and that's pretty much where I post all of my stuff. So yeah, check me out there.
Beautiful. Thank you for joining us and for your insight on what's going on with Lilo and Stitch. And I didn't know about Snow White. I really thought it was still popular, but you were saying your generation doesn't really.
My generation, it's definitely like she's the least favorite princess of my generation, unfortunately. I love her, but she's definitely
Not up there.
Yeah, she's not up there. Like it's definitely Ariel, Belle, rest of the most recent princesses for sure.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate that. Tom, what you got coming up for Midnight's Edge?
Tonight we're celebrating Star Wars Day by doing the tier list for the Skywalker films. Otherwise, we got the morning show and other videos coming up, so you never know.
Wonderful. Everybody go check it out this week. Have a wonderful Memorial Day. Again, thank you for all your support. And remember, this week you're going to be back this Wednesday, so Slayer Unchained. I may do a special tomorrow night with a friend of mine. We're going to do a political show, maybe like a Memorial Day special. So look at 5 o'clock, check the channel to see if it's going to be going live. Other than that, remember, have a beautiful week. We have one rule because we are fighters. We never bow down. We never bend the knee. Always forward.